with agenda item number 1, citizens' concerns. Anybody with anything they would like to discuss that is not otherwise on the agenda? Okay. All right, Chairman's update. There are still 3 more chances to see the Acton Boxborough Regional High School's musical production of Into the Woods this weekend, Friday and Saturday, November 6th and 7th. There are 2 night performances each night at 7:30 and the matinee on Saturday at 3. So I've not had a chance to see it, but I imagine it's very good. Next week, coming up, is Veterans Day on November 11th, so just a reminder that town offices will be closed. However, there will be a breakfast for all Acton and Boxborough veterans and their spouses hosted by the Rotary Club and the Acton Boxborough Regional High School National Honor Society at the Holiday Inn at 8:30. And I believe this is their 3rd year of doing that. And then that will be followed by an observation on the town common at 11, and everybody is welcome to join us for that. And the night before, hopefully everybody will join us at special town meeting beginning Tuesday, November 10th. So since most people have the 11th off, no excuse not to show up on the 10th. Starting at 7 p.m. in the auditorium of the high school. There will be pre-town meeting this Thursday at 7 at the 7, right? That's what I wrote down, at the public safety facility. So anybody who's interested in presenting on an article should attend that. And I think that is it for me, Mr. Manager.
In keeping with the issue of the special town meeting, we've been taping a few kind of mini TV shows around some of the articles, particularly, I guess it'd be easier if I said the numbers. Article 2, which is the increase of the liquor license quota. Article 6, the special tax assessment. Article 8, the train station landscaping. Article 9, the stormwater management bylaw. So we've done shows on that with some of the kind of the proponents of those articles, and they're being aired on both cable and can be streamed on their website. I'm also happy to announce that the Acton Nursing Service has, for the 6th time in 10 years, received the Home Care Elite Award. So once again, great job by Heather and her crew, be one of the top nursing agencies in the United States. And finally, I just wanted to pass on, because this there's a scam going on that has affected or some Acton residents, but it's going on all over the place, and it's the IRS scam, where folks will get a call from somebody who claims they're with the Internal Revenue Service that they owe back taxes, and if they don't go out and get a money order or what is known as a green dot card, the police will come over and arrest them. This is a scam. The IRS never does stuff like this over the phone, and the folks, or anybody who gets that type of call, should call the police department at 978-264-9638. And that's my report.
Thank you very much. All right, why don't we spend the next 5 minutes getting ready for our first hearing. So I will read the 7:45. I will read the public notice. The Acton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on November 2nd, 2015 at 7:10 p.m. in the Francis Faulkner Hearing Room at Town Hall on the application of Rapscallion, 5 Strawberry Hill Road, for a use special permit number 0908-2015-456, increased seating to 90, required under section 10.3 of the Acton zoning bylaw. So are there representatives from Rapscallion here? Okay, do you want to come up and you can sit at the table, and we'll all pretend it's 7:10. Okay, so you want to just introduce yourself and what your request is, and then we'll probably hear from zoning, etc. Can you just press a button to turn on the mic? Thanks.
My name is Peter, and I am here to request 15 additional seats, as the location is for 75 seats inside the building.
15 additional seats?
Yeah, special permit. does everybody have this same paperwork here, or? Okay.
Yep. So, okay. Well, I guess we can start with questions from the board. If people had. Janet, go ahead.
I've read the file, and I'm not going to sort of go over it bit by bit, but one of my concerns is that right now, your property is approved by the Board of Health for only 75 seats based on the capacity of the septic system. I know that your request is for an increase from 75 seats to 90. And I know we have actually a draft decision that says approve 90, but contingent on all these things, among which is that you're going to have to deal with the health department on increasing the seating and doing whatever it is to increase the capacity for your septic system. I'm a little uncomfortable about approving the increase in seating to 90 without knowing what the health department is going to say. I just said I'd rather say that the seating has to stay at 75 until you actually get authorization from the health department to, increase it to 90, because that seems to be a capacity issue. In addition, there are some other issues that were raised by our building department about sort of the stability of the structure, given that in all likelihood, it's seating is for seating as opposed to standing. Sometimes you have more people who are standing. So that was something that the building people raised. I think the fire department also wanted to add sprinklers. And then the last thing that I have observed myself is the issue with parking. I know that in the application you say that you have gotten permission from some adjacent property owners to use their lots for overflow parking, but we have received a letter from, I guess, a business that's across the street, and I think that their concern is that the lot they share with other businesses over there does get the overflow parking, but during the week when they're still working in their offices, sometimes late with clients. Sometimes their clients have difficulty during the week finding parking spaces. And I have myself, because I live down off of Strawberry Hill Road, I have myself observed that quite often, starting like Thursday night, there are cars parked on the street. The parking lot for the restaurant is full, and then I don't know if these people who are parked on the street don't realize that they could park across the street, but I know that there are quite a number of cars that will be parked on the street. And so I think that there's a concern about sort of managing that in some way. And I know there were concerns raised about, maybe it was the police department, about the safety of people who are walking from, say, Donald's to your restaurant. So, but anyhow, the base is your request for seating. I am a little bit concerned about the fact that right now your septic system is only apparently designed or approved for 75 seats, so.
I noticed that you have a total of 109 seats now. So my question is, are those being used right now? And if not, whatever we decide, whether it's 75 or 90, it seemed like the actual seats should reflect.
Yeah, so you're wondering, so on page 2 of, I guess, the packet for tonight, this came up on a site visit from the zoning department. So we had a few site visits from the health, building inspecting, that this hadn't been brought up. Our posting on the wall gives us, I think it says 95 or 100 seat capacity. So I understand that also involves staff throughout the house. So, I wasn't 100% sure myself. So I think it was more the departments in the town of Acton were kind of asking, okay, what is the number? So I think it was finally the zoning department, which I think that's you, right, Roland, correct? The three of you said, hey, you guys should be at 75. And they counted, so we have 90 seats in the house, or 88 in the house, but I'll call it 90, an extra 2. So we've been using 88, 90 seats. I'm candid. I mean, this is what we've been doing for the first 10 months. So I had asked them, I said, what do we need to do? Because, I'm looking at the wall, I thought that was the seats, and I now know that's the capacity for including the staff and so forth. So, and that's when he suggested, listen, you need to get the special permit to include 90. So, and that obviously, if you look further down in the report, that would give us the max of what we're allowed with the 30 spots we have in our lot. So that's where we are now. We definitely want to abide by and by all the town laws and be a community, a good community business. So, you know, our plan is to not go past 90. I mean, it's a very old house. You had mentioned there, definitely I could see the structural, you know, concerns. We welcome anybody's opinion. We want it to be safe, obviously, ourselves. So I agree with everything Janet has said. The one point is police safety. I haven't heard the police department and report come across from their end, so that's news to me. If anything, I'm not concerned about the safety of the customers because they're in either lots. And there have been a few occasions they park on Strawberry Hill Road on one side, and I was told as long as it's not posted, you're allowed to do that on one side. We don't encourage it. We don't want it. I actually think it's a good thing because cars come by there at very fast speeds, and when there's actually cars parked there, it kind of slows down the traffic around, but I'm not saying that just because I'm subjective to my location being there. But where I bring up the safety issues, if there is a safety concern, it shouldn't be there. So I definitely want to find out who it was from or the report. My safety concern is all our employees park behind Donnellan's. We have a great relationship with the Gould brothers. So it's a company policy. We send an email out. We all park behind the lot, the market. And I think he is a good community person, as you know. I often see that Dodge uses that as well, so I think there's other local businesses that utilize that back lot. But anyway, we're a small business. We have about 10 employees on a busy night, and all our cars are parked in that back lot, and we walk across. And I could say, even, it doesn't matter the season, I know winter probably even more challenging, but we've had a lot of safety concerns. I'm worried for our staff, myself included. I mean, at nighttime when we cross there at 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 9, I mean, I don't need to tell you guys, I'm preaching to the choir, but it's a very, in my opinion, dangerous road, great road. So I'm putting my employees and myself every day at risk crossing that road, and it just takes one person to text and not focus. So I remind my staff to be very cognizant of the fact when they're crossing over. But anyway, so that's been my only safety concern. I didn't know of any police beyond that, because I've actually heard the opposite. There's a few people who I believe work in the force that come to our place, and they've actually said they like that it slows down when there's parking on both, you know, and people crossing over. It actually slows that traffic down. But I'm definitely open, you know, if there's something I've missed. You guys have been terrific in the community, their departments on keep me in the loop. So if there's anything additional, we would definitely love to. And then the only other comment to your question or Janet's opening remark is there is one tenant. So she's not an abutter, she's not a landowner or a property owner. It's actually one of Norman, and Norman and his wife are here tonight. He's got a dozen or so tenants. Oh no, I meant like altogether, the vet. He's got many tenants, and we have great relationships with him, but there's two. Well, I know of one tenant that has had a struggle or has challenged our, you know, she's come over a few times to property. You know, it hasn't been, you know, the most seamless relationship. I'm trying to work with her. But anyway, I always remind her that my relationship is with the landowner over there, Norman, and that I deal with him, or Norman, I'm sorry, and your wife. But she is kind of taking it up upon herself to, you know. So that's the only one I know of, and it sounds like maybe there's a second one. Yeah.
I just want to clarify, I think the reference to safety walking on the streets from the parking lot is from the planning board's draft decision. So, and I don't know where that came from in turn, but the other thing I just wanted to add after, you know, listing all the things the issues that we had heard about from different departments was that you have a nice problem, you're incredibly popular, you're just a hopping place. I mean, you're just really doing well. I just, in the middle of the week, starting at 5 o'clock, if I go by there, I'll see, you know, the lot starting to fill up. So, and yeah, and I have dined there and enjoyed what you have to offer. So I have to say that you have a very, a good problem from a business perspective in that you are really doing good business. So
No, I appreciate those kind words, Jan, and that's kind of our goal. I mean, I've tried to be an open book. Like, we're closed Monday, Tuesday. We're open, I mean, we could be open 7 days a week. We could be, you've been there, so you know our model. We're very family-friendly. At 9:30, the place pretty much clears out, and we have a very small bar. So we're not, our whole model, in the 10 to 12 years my brother and I have been in business, it's been super local focused. The brewery, so it says Rapscallion, but our official name is Concord Brewery. So we started where the Neshoba Bakery is 20 years ago. When we took it over, we were in multiple states, multiple locations. We were in 1,000 packs. So we actually scaled back because we have a very super focused model on sustainability and keeping it very local. So our whole focus, and I believe I'm too old in my career to change. I'm not gonna. This is what we're doing for the next 30 years. Is we hope to be here in Acton, we hope to be in Sturbridge, and have good relationships with both communities. And we don't want to change and move on. And we're not. Even if we had the access to expand for the sake of expanding, we don't want to. That's our whole model is keep it very local. So, we want to definitely abide by all the rules and be a community. A very good community business and neighbor to everybody. So I understand there's definitely challenges with that property being there at Strawberry Hill at the end, and it's an old house. And as Janet said, it's a busy place for a few hours. So throughout the day, it's, we've had a few lunches where, and I can understand some of Norman's tenants have been, saying, all right, the party's up, but it's very remote. It's very rare that we actually use that lot during the day. So it's pretty much, and that's why Norman and his wife and I did this. Well, they did the signs, but we discussed about the signs posted saying you can only park here. So let me clarify, half that lot, we can park anytime. Kathleen Foley owns the other half of the lot, and she has allowed us to park there anytime during the day. We still discourage it. We don't want to park there during the day because we understand she's got clients. And his tenants have clients. So, but what I'm just trying to say is to be very open book that there are times where we may have to use that. We have a busy lunch, maybe it's the Friday after Thanksgiving or something like that. But we do a very good job of communicating to our customers, our regulars, on our website, on social media. Use our lot. But the vet who's a tenant there, we let them park in our lot during the day, especially Monday or Tuesdays when we're closed. So we're trying to reciprocate the relationship because we understand if our lot's empty during Monday or Tuesdays or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in the morning, you come over and, because even if you took our business out of it, they have a very busy lot over there because they have many tenants with the vet, if they have a lot of clients come in with their pets or with the psychologists or therapists, whatever they are up there. So they even have a tight lot. So we've offered to Kathleen Foley and her colleagues as well as his tenants that you can park in our lot during the day. So we're just trying to make it, get everybody to work together and play in the sandbox very nicely. So that's our goal. But I definitely understand you guys would have concerns.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the record's clear here. You in your application, you have a note up at the top here, special permit for addition of up to 90 seats. And then where you say detailed description of special permit, you're asking to go to 95.
Yeah,
So,
sorry,
okay.
that's a typo. It's
Okay.
my Frenglish. It's not
You're at 90.
English, my second language. So,
Okay,
but yes,
that's
90.
fine. I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
was accurate. It seems like whether we grant this permit or not tonight, you're going to have to deal with the Board of Health. And you're
Yes.
saying you got 88 seats. Does that include the outside seats or just the
That
inside?
does not include the outside seats.
So how many do you have outside?
We were seating, obviously during the season, I think maximum 20 out there. So,
Okay, so, I mean, nobody's trying to shut you down. It's not your fault, that this has happened. But I am concerned about overloading the septic system. I mean, that is an environmental issue that deals with water resources. So
absolutely.
have you talked to the Board of Health? And it's going to be expensive to upgrade your
Oh, yeah,
septic
so-
system, I assume.
I thought it was in the packet, but so we've already signed on. We met with Cheryl and her team a month ago. Well, we've been meeting with them about the septic for over a year now. But that's been more so the property is also unique that my father-in-law is the official owner of the property. His name is Claude Miquel, who's been in this town for a long time. So, but my wife and I have, slowly, gradually kind of helped him out with more of the property things that, with the septics. is a perfect example. So, but that, it is happening.
Okay.
So phase one has already been planned, it's been paid for, we've already put $20,000 on the beginning of the septic phase, so.
Okay.
We're definitely approaching it, and, you know, when I first, you know, being ignorant to the fact, when I first met with him a year ago about this, or even, I should say 8 months ago, when we were doing very well and busy, I said we were having no issues. But that's not the case. You want to be preventative. I know that
Yep.
even with the volume we're doing, we have, knock on wood, have had no issues. But that's, you know, a science thing. We're lucky
Right.
with the grade up there. But either way, it doesn't matter. Even if it was sufficient enough, if we have to upgrade it to be safe
Yep.
and be proactive, we need to do it. And we definitely have taken a step to do it. So we've already planned it. It's been signed on. If it's not happening before the frost this season, it won't be any later than March, so.
Okay, and so this would be a maximum of 90 seats. Is that including the outside seats too, even though they're only part of the year? I mean, I guess that's
Yeah,
driven by the
that's-
parking spaces and the septic system, right?
Yeah, that's a question I would like to know. I mean, we
Okay.
want to abide. I know 90 is definitely inside and 20 is out, so.
Roland, do you want to, yeah, can you address that? And if there's just any other general comments you guys want to add, that would be very helpful.
Yes, so that would include the outdoor seating, under zoning. Doesn't,
That's driven by the parking, as I understand.
it's driven by the parking.
Okay.
30 parking spaces, 90 seats, that's it. And as far as the septic system is concerned, you know, I understand the concern about granting 90, but, you know, Board of Health has its own jurisdiction. I'm not sure we need to, or the board needs to necessarily put its own layer on it. That's why the condition is drafted in our draft decision for you to consider the way it is written, so that the Board of Health can have the ultimate say on the number of seats.
Okay, thank you. I just have a couple more questions. There was an issue about expanding the parking spaces and graveling over part of the lot, and you were supposed to clean that up and landscape it, and is that
Correct.
happening?
Yeah, we did park, it wasn't often. It was on those few nights we would put the employee cars there. We, technically, I think they can clarify, I thought we were also allowed to use that as a loading zone, and I think maybe we still are, but we don't anymore. We just don't even go there anymore, because after our second visit with their department, you know, they made it very clear that don't go back here, so we don't even go back there. The chain doesn't work. We used to keep the chain up, but it's such a long width with the restriction, it just, the chain falls. So you'll notice the chain, if you drive by, it's not on, but that's not because we're going in and out. I can say with 100% certainty, we have never, we did one small ceremony back there in the last few months, you know, with 20 people.
You were going to rake the gravel off and grow some
Yeah,
grass
we raked
there, is
it,
that
we
okay?
did rake it back, but
Okay.
it's just such heavy,
Okay.
the first time I did say we were gonna rake it, well, I did say I was gonna do it, but I said I'll get my team on it, they didn't do it. The second time, I went out there with my father, actually, we raked it back, just ourselves. We could probably pay someone to 100% do it and put grass over
Yeah.
again, but I'm not gonna spend $400 or $500 when I know with 100% certainty that my word is my word and we're not gonna park back there, so.
Okay.
It's actually been pulled back, and we actually, if you know, feel free to walk the property, but we used to have a pavement walkway that abuts the house that goes up to the bulkhead, and that used to be like an ugly pavement, so now that's gone because the gravel is over that, so we took all that excess gravel and kind of leveled it, you know, just made
Okay.
it flow with the,
Then there was a recommendation from the local building inspector about doing a structurally sound engineering report. Are you willing to do that?
yeah, so that's a great question, I read that. I think it had been mentioned by a few departments, you know, again, I didn't know, I just assumed maybe they came in and it was your people, so I don't know what that process, but we're
No,
open.
I think that means hiring your own
Okay.
private engineer to do a structural analysis of the building and make sure it would hold the weight of 90
Yeah,
patrons.
and I send that report to this office here, or to,
To the building department,
Okay.
I believe, and I don't see that in the recommended decision, so if we do vote to approve this decision, I would recommend, that would be a condition that I would add to the decision.
I think it's in there, but written,
Right now, it has,
it's in there somewhere, I
in
thought.
4.4.1, it talks about, it addresses the building department's concerns about accessibility and safe egress, but it doesn't, I noticed that, it doesn't mention having the structural engineering analysis or whatever. And I agree with Peter that I think that should be added in.
Yeah.
And then I also had a question about this.
I'm sorry, Roland might want to.
Yeah, no, well, but similarly for Roland, about the gravel, because it sounded, this is on the entertainment license, but same.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That it sounded, well, it doesn't, whatever. It sounded like you were requiring that they re-landscape that area, but I'm hearing that that's not in the plan, so I just want to be clear about whether that's required and if that needs to be put in a condition for anything.
Well, we have decided for now to take Peter's word on that.
Okay.
And it's winter time, but we have no problem if you want to add that as a condition. And we haven't done a most recent inspection. I mean, we've talked over the summer. He did rake it back. There were no cars lately in that area, so give him the benefit of the doubt. As far as the building department's concern about the weight, I think that was more related about the entertainment license and about having more people. So we didn't put it in the 90, we didn't put it in the decision about the 90 seats, because the capacity of the place could be bigger than 90. So there is that difference. But again, if it's something you want to add into the decision as a condition, that's fine. We don't have an objection to that. No reason why it couldn't or shouldn't be in there. It just seemed to be related to a lot of people standing at the bar and, whatever, maybe dancing, that kind of thing.
And I can clarify what kind of, what that's going to entail, the license, and if you would like.
We should wait till
Okay.
7:45 just to be legal about it.
But I appreciate that Roland does honor the word, but, again, we have no intention to do anything with that side lot. If anything, we just were, it was kind of an eyesore when we took it over. I don't know if you remember what it was there before. It was pretty much a compost pile, a large one. And it attracted a lot of unnecessary wildlife, and so we cleaned it up. The gravel, in hindsight, the guy we hired, the firm we hired, just went a lot, I think 6 feet above the line they should have went on the gravel. But either way, they did a good job. It looks nice. So we just want it to look nice. So the weeds are growing up, the grass is growing up. Next year, hopefully that 6 feet or whatever it is that we went over will grow in. But our only intention is to make that side of the property look pretty. So we get a lot of comments from our neighbors, who are also our patrons, who come in and comment on how the property has cleaned up a little. My father-in-law is, God bless him, he's kind of a do-it-yourselfer, thrifty Frenchman, and, the roof, everything. So all these improvements we'll be doing, like new roofs and properties, only to make it look nicer. I've even had random comments and emails from neighbors talking about whether I would take over that little parcel of land that I think it must be the town of Acton, where you have your Path of Your Patriots monument. I guess maybe prior business tenants in the area used to upkeep that for you. I'm not even opposed to doing that. I would obviously have to get your permission, but we're all about keeping the neighborhood looking pretty and, honoring and, maintaining the history of that property. It's an old house. So your concerns of it not being safe are equally for me, because I want it to be safe. We have patrons there, but we're also a business model that's not gonna, a lot of people come in and flip it and turn it and not honor that history of that building and the charm and the authenticity of it being a 1790 old Cape. So we want to, if anything, we're doing the opposite. We're embracing that and really want to support it and, keep it that charm. So.
Janet.
I just wanted to, in defense of the prior iteration, I have to say that the prior iteration, immediate one, Sprague's, was actually quite charming, and I think that your father-in-law was probably involved with the original restaurant that was there. It was French and very well regarded.
Yeah.
And everybody talked about it. Unfortunately, I never had a chance to go before it changed operations, and then it went through a bunch of different operations that were not memorable until I think Spriggs came along. So I'm glad for the family
Yeah.
connection, so.
Yeah, it was Shea Claude, so I saw the site plan, I think it's in here. 1976 apparently is when my father-in-law took it over, had it, retired in 2001, and rented it to 5 Strawberry Hill, who went out of business, and then Spriggs. And then Spriggs was the last one. So, no, Spriggs is obviously to support my family, I would go to eat at Spriggs a lot, and I think they did a great job. It's just, I think they were maybe a little too artisanal with the farming out back, and, I promise I'm not gonna bring chickens, or our chef already has those in his home in Ashburnham, but, no, it's been a terrific, long history of good dining and nice operations.
Are there any other questions from the board? Any comments from the audience? Yes, do you mind just coming up to the microphone, please? You just press the button to turn it on and state your name.
My name is Norman Abend. My wife Sydney and I own the property at 4 Strawberry Hill Road. When the restaurant first opened, we went through a very rough patch. Parking was a problem, mainly because we said to these people they can park there if we're not using it, but there was a lot of parking. For the last 2 months, we put new signs in, and they seem to work. We've had no problems. And by the way, Peter didn't ask us to come here. I came here because there's no football on tonight. But we've had no problems. When I have called them, and it's a telephone chain, I get a call from a tenant, there's no parking for that client. I call Peter, he runs out there, and he has been responsive when we have had problems. I must say for the last 2 months, we haven't had any. And we provide the parking just as a good neighbor. And I just hope it stays that way as it's been for the past couple of months. That's my only issue. I think I'm happy with having an active property across the street. And we don't plan to stay for the entertainment or amusement hearing, but we have no comment on it.
Peter, you had a question?
Yeah, we got a letter, I don't know if you saw it, on October 28th. Just
I haven't seen that
ago,
letter. No, I haven't.
From the counseling offices, there's 4 signatures here from the counselors in your building, I guess.
Yes.
And they're saying it's still an issue, so I don't know.
It's still
if
an
you've
issue?
spoken to them. That's what they're saying in this letter,
Well, I would say we originally had some serious issues. We originally put signs in saying that no parking before 7 o'clock, and that didn't work. And we now have those signs plus several spaces that say no restaurant parking at any time. And since those have gone in, I haven't gotten any calls, let's put it that way. That's how I measure things. If I don't get a call, I don't have a problem.
I'd ask you just to speak to the counseling service and
I go by there all the time. I'm there, regularly.
Right.
And-
I would note, their letter says with the increase in seats, they're concerned there'll be more parking that would take over their spaces. But as I understand it, you're not really increasing
No.
seats.
Yeah,
You're just
that-
asking for a permission to go to where you are,
Yeah.
a permit that would allow you to go to where you are now. So there shouldn't be any additional cars.
I went across and saw Peter last week and asked him what the increase was going to be. He explained that there was a difference in allowed seating between different boards, and there was no actual increase in seating. On that basis, I don't have any problems.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Okay, any other questions from board members? So I'll just note that, I agree with Peter, and the building department's comments did say that they not recommend that the occupancy is increased or the entertainment license issued until the recommendations of the engineer, including that part about having a structural engineer evaluate the structural integrity, are implemented, approved, and verified. So I would recommend we add a condition just stating that. So does anybody want to if people are comfortable approving the draft decision with that addition, would anybody want to make a motion to that effect?
I move that we approve the draft decision with the one addition of a requirement about the building inspection for structural stability.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
I think I'll give a copy of this letter to you. I'll give the copy of the letter we got to you.
Great. All right, I'm going to wait, if you don't mind just hanging around for a little bit, Peter, because we got to wait till 7:45 to do your next hearing. So why don't we do the consent agenda in the meantime? So I will read through these. If you have any you'd like to hold, please say hold. Number 7, one-day alcoholic beverage license, Eric Keels, The Gallery at Village Works, November 7th, 2015. There was one of these where there was a different day, Lisa, on the agenda versus what was on the application, and I don't remember which one. It might have been this one, or it was the November 8th. One of these was like off by a day, I feel like. Number 7? Okay, that. Okay. I knew there was something. Okay, perfect. Okay, number 8, one-day alcoholic beverage license, One Common Unity, The Gallery at Village Works, November 8th, 2015. Number 9, one-day alcoholic beverage license, Arena, Buchalder, Nagog Clubhouse, December 12th, 2015. I apologize to Arena. It's a tough one. Number 10, the subordination agreement for 20 Main Street for the Aspet River Rail Trail. Number 11, approved change of business address, ABC Taxi. Number 12, committee appointment, Fran Arsenault, full member of the Historic District Commission. Number 13, accept gift, Acton Fire Department, a gift from Digital Federal Credit Union totaling $2,500 to support the fire safety initiatives. And number 14, request to dispose of obsolete items, Acton Memorial Library. Okay, hearing no holds, can I have a motion?
Move to approve items 7 through 14.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we got a couple more minutes. I think we can do the discussion of the board nomination for ActonTV. So hopefully everybody saw, but here somewhere, the letter from Dick stating that they have 3 positions open on their board of directors, and that according to their agreement, the Board of Selectmen, the school committee may nominate a member of their boards to be considered as a candidate for the ActonTV Board of Directors. So they just want to know if anybody here, I think, is interested in being nominated for the Board of Directors, and if so, we should vote to put your name forward. I think, Ching Sung, you're their liaison, so I don't know if that's something that interests you or not.
I'd be happy to take it if that's what, if that is what's viewed. Do we generally have a member of the Board of Selectmen on the Board of Directors or something? Is that like a?
I think Mike was. No, he was not? Charlie, would you like to address? Can you just turn it on? Thanks.
Charlie Aronson, I'm Vice President of the Board of Directors of ActonTV,
All right, thank you, Charlie.
so I can answer any questions. Mike Gowing was our liaison,
He wasn't on the board?
but he was not on the board.
I was just assumed he was. So we typically have not had a member on the board.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Would it be helpful for you if we did have a member on the board, or do you not really?
I understand that our memorandum of understanding with the town
Yeah.
allows for it.
Right.
And we now have a position open.
Yeah.
And so we would welcome a member of the Board of Selectmen if they would like to be a member of the Board of ActonTV.
Can you indicate what the additional duties of being on the board, just so whoever does this would know what's being, kind of requested? Do you meet once a month,
We meet once a month.
Okay.
Regularly, and it's similar to the duties of any member of a board of directors of a nonprofit corporation. So it's not a municipal board of board, and we don't follow all of the same regulations and requirements that municipal committees do. But right now, the Board of Directors is wrestling with things like making sure that we have a good strategic plan for the future and ensuring that we do all of the right things to ensure our success. And that involves things like broadening our source of income so that it's more than just the income from the local cable companies. Those are some of the issues that are.
Great.
And we're, of course, dealing with quality of programming and things of that sort.
Peter, you have a question?
Yeah, I don't have a letter in front of me. There was something about the school committee also. Was that, and the school committee can have somebody on it, or
They can both.
the
Yes.
selectmen or the
Yes,
school committee?
yes, the answer to any "or" question is always yes. But in this case, it means both.
But you only have one opening?
No, right now we have, I think Dick said there were three.
Oh, okay, all right. Have you
It
heard from
says-
the school committee at all? or-
No.
Okay.
I don't think
No.
they've met since getting the letter either. And it
No,
says
well, yeah,
that-
actually, I'm sorry. Actually, we have, and they have somebody they're considering, but they have not come up with an answer yet.
And again, it just says we may nominate a member to be considered, so it's not an audit, it's not like a lead. Yeah, it's not an, or however the board is selected, I don't know,
Yes.
by other board members or. So if anybody has a burning desire, we can put a name forward.
So, I mean, it depends. I have.
You just turn on your mic.
So I have no objection to doing this, if we all think it'd be helpful to have a member of the BOS on the Acton TV Board of Directors, I'd be happy to take the position. But I really have no firm opinion one way or the other. I would like to do whatever, the community, whatever the board or whatever Acton TV feels would be most beneficial to the operation, the continued operation of our TV station, so.
I would like to make a suggestion.
Sure.
Why don't you make it to the next board meeting, introduce yourself to the Board
Okay.
of Directors of Acton TV, and explore a little further about what it's all about before you make a commitment or we make a commitment.
Okay,
Sure.
That's a good idea.
I'm happy to do that. When is the next board meeting?
The third Thursday of November, the week before Thanksgiving,
Okay. And
whatever date that is.
in the morning?
Yeah, we meet at 7:30 in the morning.
Okay.
Okay, so we will do that. I think that's a good plan. All right, perfect, 7:45. Okay, the Acton, oh, this is the big one. Nope, not the big one. The Acton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on November 2nd. There's like a weird, sometimes there's an extra word here. Sorry. On November 2nd, 2015, at 7:45 PM in the Francis Faulkner Hearing Room at Town Hall on the application of Concord Brewery, Inc., doing business as Rapscallion, 5 Strawberry Hill Road, under Chapter 140, Section 183A of the Massachusetts General Laws for an entertainment license. The application can be inspected at Town Hall during normal business hours. Peter, do you have any comments about this requested license?
Oh, sorry, I'm confused. This,
You're Peter.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Applicant Peter.
I wasn't used to speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're not even, this is something we just wanted to, it's not even certain we're going to utilize it. What happens is, again, if you guys require certain, I don't know how to say it, policy saying, listen, if it's not going to be during the day, like, we can't have music during the day. Like, it's already, as we discussed earlier, it's a busy enough house. We don't need any additional, volume or people. We already have noise issues there. So this is strictly a thought, a brainstorm, if from 9 PM forward, maybe 9 to 11. And it would be very similar, it's tough to give you examples, but a local example would be the former local table, local acts, acoustic, very soft. This isn't 5-piece band making a lot of noise. It's and you can't even do that in our place. It's really impossible. So we're not really suited to be a music venue. So this is very, very small, maybe similar to some of the nights they have at Main Street Cafe, where it's a couple local people coming in. We have a terrific relationship with Indian Hill music venue. A lot of their musicians are patrons of ours, and they've often said, hey, maybe at 9:30, a couple of us come in and do varying genres. So it's, and the reason I kind of have entertained the idea, no pun intended, was that from around 9 p.m., 9:30, it doesn't matter if it's a Wednesday or a Saturday night, the place just clears out because the nature of our business is that we're just a family-friendly casual brew pub. So, but I will always have a handful, half a dozen regulars who are there till last call. So I'm there at night, or it's someone else, and I'm sitting there going, wow, geez, I'm here for 3-4 hours till midnight, which is good. It's important, obviously, to accommodate your regulars or people who come in after they put the kids to bed or come in for the late game. There's nothing wrong with that. But I kept thinking, well, I'm already here. Why not have maybe 6 other people here listening to some acoustic music or so forth? So we actually don't even have an action plan on this or any real concrete plan on what it would entail. So even if we did get it or it was approved, we may never utilize it. And it's very similar to we have an all liquor license there, and for the first 10 months, we never poured anything but beer and wine. We've just now tried out, a featured cocktail list and so forth, very similar to our business model, very local, sustainable. We cross-utilize, I'll give you many examples, but our plums that our chef has on his property in Ashburnham, he'll use for, our halibut, but we'll actually take that plum and use it for a plum martini. It's very focused on, we're not going to be a martini bar, never want to be, but, a lot of people come in, they're just not beer people, they're not wine people, so at least we know we can offer spirits to them. So very similar to that, we had the liquor license, but we weren't really utilizing it 100%, which we were fine with because we were very comfortable with our business model. So this music entertainment license is just something to say, if we do go down that route, let's start the process. But I can't say with 100% certainty we'll actually pull it to fruition, so.
And I do just want to clarify, because the request for it is just for Thursday nights for 9 till 11.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
So
it just
that-
sounded a little, you
Yeah.
mentioned Wednesdays and other things, but this would only allow it on Thursdays from 9
Yeah.
to 11:30.
And that's, I should have been, again, kind of like my typo with the 95 seats, I should have been a little more open about that, but, I don't think it would be a Friday, Saturday night, just because we're busy enough later, so maybe a Wednesday and a Sunday night, starting at 9 PM or 9:30. So I know one thing is certain, if we do it, we're not going to do it while the kitchen's open. And weekdays, our kitchen closes at 9, Friday and Saturday night, our kitchen closes at 9:30, and that's like a hard close. So we definitely will not have live music going when our kitchen is open.
Okay, but so again, if you're going to do it Wednesdays I think,
Thursdays or, whatever.
right now, it's just the request is just for Thursday.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So if you did want to go for what, you'd have to come back and
Oh,
ask for
I
that.
didn't know that was, did I write that in?
I'm pretty sure. I mean,
I
it's
mean,
on the application, it's just, you're
Okay.
requesting it just for Thursday from 9 to 11:30. So I assume that if we approve it,
Yeah.
it's,
If there's a way I can amend that and keep it open, because I don't know if Wednesday would be better than Thursday. So I thought maybe I had a range in there, but if there's a way I can amend that without having to go through the whole application process again, that would be ideal, but
Kristen, can you address that? Anybody? Yeah. Entertainment. Sorry. Nina, if an application for an entertainment license says it's just for Thursday from 9 to 11:30, but they then wanted to do it on other nights, do they have to reapply for the other nights? Right. So I think right now your application is just for Thursdays from 9 to 11:30, so we can approve that tonight,
okay.
but not
Yeah.
just other random
And
times.
I think that's because we advertised an
Right.
application that had that on it.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So that's,
Yeah, that's my
without going
mistake.
out and telling the public that you
Yeah.
want to change it.
Right. And we've gotten comments from the departments. I don't think they would have an issue with it being on other nights, maybe if it was Friday and Saturday, but it sounds like that's not what you're requesting, but as Peter mentioned, the public application was just for Thursday from 9 to 11:30.
Okay.
So we can either, discuss that and approve this tonight, or if you want to go back and reapply with a broader
Yeah, would I have to
application.
come back through
Yeah, we
like
have
the
to do a
meeting?
whole new hearing.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's very remote that we even started, so we can continue with the Thursday night, because if we do it, it would be, we're looking at one night a week. So I guess I've apparently picked the night I would do my trial.
Yeah, try it out on Thursday.
So Thursday night it is, I guess, if we even do.
Okay. And again, I mean, I think the only comments in here were just about the engineer, the building, which we've addressed in the other thing. So I don't have any questions if anybody else has questions or comments.
Well, I see the planning board's memo here, the last line just talks about, correcting the zoning violations, which is basically the septic system, is a high priority, and at the license hearing, the selectmen should ask for a date by which the zoning compliance will be achieved. So that's the question. When do you think you'll get the septic system, I guess, up to?
I think it'll be no later than March. We were hoping to get it done this season.
Yeah.
So I can meet with the engineering department again and
Okay.
kind of get more of a timetable, or at least
Okay.
more
So,
definitive.
as I'm understanding, what we've already approved a license to go to 90, or a
Special
permit to go to 90 seats based on your correcting these conditions, but we're going to allow you to operate, obviously, at 90 continue, as I understand it, without, coming down on you for zoning violations, but between now and March. But if it takes longer than that,
Sure. And that's
you'll be in violation of the permit, so.
yeah, absolutely. And that, to be clear, that's also, because it's many phases, so that's just saying you start phase one
Yeah.
at this point, and, okay, right, is that written in there, or?
There's no specific dates or anything in
Okay,
this
it's just-
because,
Okay,
I mean, right now you're violating zoning by
Yep.
having more than 75, but violating the health department. So there's no specific date, but you're out of compliance until you have a septic system that's
Okay.
approved for 90.
Right, there is no specific date, but you put on the record here that you anticipate it'll be done by March. So if you don't
Correct.
move forward in a manner expeditiously to get it done by March, you're going to hear from us.
sure, that's
Okay.
very fair. No, yeah, I just had a conversation with my father-in-law, Claude, about that this morning. I said, well, if the money's spent, I'd rather get it done now than, it's not, I don't think it's necessarily sitting in an escrow account picking up interest. So they've taken the money, so I think we would like to see this accelerated as well, so.
All right, if there's no further questions?
Janet, did you have a
Okay.
question?
I mean, I'm looking at the draft decision. I don't think that, technically we're allowing the operation to continue as it is, sort of in.
We're not,
I
no.
think we're requiring that as a condition, in order for you to operate at 90 seats, you have to satisfy these conditions, and it does include the issue with the septic system, so that, I mean, frankly, if I were you, I'd try to figure out a way to operate at 75 seats, which might be very challenging, or at least you should talk to the health department, the Board of Health, talk to the planning department, and figure out if there's a practical way for you to manage, even though you're not strictly in compliance with the requirements of our order. Because I don't want to be on record as saying that, well, we issued this other order, but basically, we're going to let you not comply with it for sort of a grace period. I'd be uncomfortable doing that.
Sure.
But I understand, yeah, you had said that you expected the septic work to, I was glad to hear, because that was the biggest issue for me, was the septic system work, and I was glad for you to explain that you were already working on it, you had plans and all that, so that is a good thing. But, yeah, I just didn't want to be on record as saying that,
I think that's a good point.
yeah.
Yeah, our vote does not.
What happens in reality, that's really between you and the departments, so.
No, it's a
Yeah.
very valid point. I mean, every party has to be protected and make sure they're covered by, no, these are big decisions, big investments, and my father-in-law and I have met often about it, and, that was part of the whole thing, and in hindsight, you can't, the fine dining has worked there, so 75 seat, the business model of 75 seat or less, it can work there, but in our business model, we're not that kind of business model, so it's actually kind of a stretch already that we can do it within 90 seats. But the alternative is, if we can't be in the business model and my father and I aren't operating it, that's a whole nother meeting here. You have someone taking over the property, putting a used car lot up, or who knows what. But in order to keep the history and the family operating this business going forward, we know this is the model we have to work with. We know we won't be doing fine dining, so that's a decision we made many months ago, that we have to do the septic because there's no other way. So you definitely have our, again, I know there's a lot of, me saying you have my word, and but we're going to be doing it.
Okay, I'll move we grant the...
I just want to check to make sure there
I'm
are
sorry.
no questions or comments from the audience. Okay. Now, do you want to make a motion?
I'll move we grant Rapscallion a entertainment license for acoustic music on Thursday night between 11:30 was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay, so you're all set. So if you do want to do another night, you'll just have to, like I said,
Yeah.
apply again, unfortunately, but that's how it goes.
Thank you.
Okay, we are pretty close to 8, so I will read the next notice. The Acton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on November 2nd, 2015 at 8 p.m. in the Francis Faulkner Hearing Room, 204, at Town Hall on the application of Ryan Development LLC 2 Land Drive, Westford, Mass. for a site plan special permit number 09/1/11/15-457, building raise existing structure and new construction required under section 10.3 and 10.4 of the Acton zoning bylaw at 252 Main Street, Acton. The application and accompanying plans can be inspected at Town Hall during normal business hours. Okay, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Attorney Kevin Erickson on behalf of the applicant Ryan Development LLC. With me tonight, Katie Enright from Howard Stein Hudson, our project engineer, seeking a special permit and site plan special permit for the property located at 252-256 Main Street. As the board is probably familiar, this is the site of Kmart and the old 94-seat McDonald's. We're proposing a 6,020 square foot restaurant to be located on the portion of the property towards the front of the lot where the existing McDonald's is today. The property contains 280,000 square feet, plus or minus. It is zoned in the Kelly's Corner Business District. We're proposing to raise that existing McDonald's and construct a 110 Grill restaurant containing 189 indoor year-round seats, as well as an associated patio that would have 51 seats that would be seasonal. And the building is to be located in substantially the same location as where the McDonald's is today, as you can see from the plan. 110 Grill is a restaurant of our own brand. We created it. It has 2 locations currently in Chelmsford and Nashua. It's an upscale American grill with a varied menu, an open kitchen concept, as well as earth tones and a very comfortable feel. We're planning on opening up 2 more locations in the next 6 months. They'll be in Berlin and Hopkinton, respectively. One in the Highland Commons, which is that new plaza up in Berlin, Hudson, in Hopkinton, right off of exit 21E, I believe. And those would open probably before this restaurant, but this is also one that we have slated for calendar year 2016. The use is allowed by special permit under your purview. The siting of the building, the parking and dimensional standards as the plan is revised, and I'll get to the revisions in a minute, all do meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw. We are in receipt of various departmental comment letters, which we received in bulk last week, and have been working feverishly to try to get the board responses to that in advance. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get you my response memo until this morning, so I understand that many on the board probably haven't had a chance to review it in depth. And we did make revisions to the plan, which we brought with us tonight, but again, recognizing that you won't have seen them, we do want to go through some of the more substantive changes and design changes, and then I'll let Katie walk the board through the overall site design, but just sort of to clear the table of some of the more significant comments I think that were suggested by the different town departments. So the planning department comment letter, there were a number of comments that were of substance and we needed to address. So we had originally, the existing sidewalk out there is 6 feet right now. So we had proposed not to change that. It was suggested that the requirement in the bylaw is 10 feet, which is true. We were thinking that, you know, an existing sidewalk, and we weren't really affecting that portion of the property. However, we have revised the plans now to increase the width of that sidewalk to 10 feet to comply with the zoning bylaw. The requirement that 60% of the front side of a lot facing a street measured in percentage of linear feet of the lot frontage shall be occupied by buildings or by a pedestrian plaza. So again, the thought there was that we were only affecting a corner of this lot with our building. We have a lease area with the owner of the property where the restaurant pad will be and where the restaurant will be. And so our portion is almost 100% building area, just about. But we did not originally, with the original submittals, propose any new buildings or pedestrian plazas on the balance of the site, with the thinking that eventually, if the balance of the site is developed, that area could still come into compliance, and it would not necessarily be our burden to do so. That said, with that comment, we have amended the plans to include a pedestrian plaza area per the bylaw. So now actually our frontage will be 60% building or pedestrian plaza within that first 40 feet as is required under the zoning bylaw. The requirement that the window area in the front facade. So there was a question about the window type, just to verify that it was not a highly reflective window type. They are not. They're non-reflectant mirror-style windows, so they will not be highly reflective, and they'll meet the requirements of the bylaw. There also was a requirement that a certain percentage, I believe, of the front facade, 20% of the ground level portion of the building's front facade must be windows. So we've had our architect redesign the building so that we now meet that requirement. I think we had roughly 16% according to the department's calculations. One of the larger comments was regarding the building style, and we can put up the building now so you can see it.
Is this the redesigned building, or?
This is the building as redesigned. So this is the side facing Main Street is shown here with the awning. And we had gone to the design review board prior to coming here, and one thing they had suggested was that we try to line up that awning with the way that Main Street runs now. So the building will have an appearance of running parallel with Main Street. And so we have redesigned the awning accordingly. We also adjusted the pitch of the roof in the areas where we don't have a second story. So you can see we've got a 9 to 12 pitch on these roofs. We're showing non-reflective glass. We increased the glass amount, and now that requirement is also satisfied. A couple of other things, sort of minor detail comments, but ones that we made change. We are showing bicycle parking details now on the plan. The landscape buffer, I think adjacent to the building, one of the landscape buffers was shown as 9 feet. We have widened that now to be 10 feet and in compliance with the bylaw. The water department had a comment letter regarding the privilege fee. So we responded to that in the memo. You'll see that we're proposing, like I said, 189 seats that are going to be year-round. And for that, he suggested a privilege fee of $136,294.68. Obviously, it's a lot of money. We do agree to that figure for the 189 seasonal seats, indoor seats that will be year-round. He suggested a prorated privilege fee for the outdoor patio seats, and it's in that section that we've respectively requested that this board cap the fees at the $136,294. In our experience, the patio seats they're seasonal, but also they're really not additional seats in function, because folks want to eat outside or they want to eat indoors, and we would never seat somebody outdoors who didn't want to be there. So they don't really function to put an additional strain on the system. Rather, it offers an option in good weather for patrons to eat outside. However, we don't believe that those seats justify any additional impact to the system. So, we're requesting the cap at $136,294, but we do agree with that figure for the 189 seats. Fire department had a comment about the patio, and whether or not during an emergency folks would have to re-enter the building in order to exit. The patio is actually separated only by piers. They're 42 inches in height with chains between the piers, and there'll be an open section near the front door closest to the main entry where there will be no chain. So egress is possible and actually quite fluid without needing to re-enter the building. There's a requirement from the fire department, which we've noted, to have fire department connection and a hydrant within 100 feet of that connection. We've updated the plan accordingly, so that we'll be compliant with that. The Board of Health had a comment regarding the grease trap. I believe prior to our initial submittal, I think might have shown an undersized grease trap, but even prior to this memo, we were showing a 4,000-gallon grease trap, so we do actually meet that concern. There were some other notation and minor changes that we made to the plan based on the comments from the departments. They're detailed in my memo, which I can hand out. And at this time, I guess I'd like to turn it over to Katie to just kind of give a site layout and sort of an idea of the design.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Katie Enright, and I'm an engineer with Howard Stein Hudson. As Kevin said, I have some revised plans for you tonight, so I'd like to pass those out quickly. In no way is this going to be submittal, but let's make sure you're all where we are headed with this.
I think we actually we have your memo already. Yeah.
Kevin did a pretty good job already telling you most of the changes to the layout. I will run you through a few items. And as Kevin said, this lot is a portion of the Kmart site, or this lease area is a portion of the Kmart site. The lease area is about 12,000 square feet. It's really small. It's really just this corner. It encompasses the old McDonald's building. Be closer to here.
Sorry.
Actually, I can probably sit. I don't need to point. The new restaurant is approximately 6,000 square feet. The current McDonald's is about 3,500 square feet. So where the current McDonald's currently jogs kind of in the back, this is squaring it off. So the building is becoming just under twice as large as the building that is there today. As Kevin said, the front patio has been changed to run parallel to Main Street, but also the roof line will run parallel to Main Street out in front of the building. So even though the building is currently skewed, it's essentially parallel with the side lot line. What we're doing by showing this new awning in the front and making the patio parallel to the road, the appearance will be that the building would be parallel to Main Street rather than at the angle that follows the side lot line. Parking associated with this is about 63 spaces. Essentially, those spaces are entailed mostly in the front parking area before you get to that bisecting aisle there. There's about 20 spaces beyond there to meet that 63, and that 63 is based on 1 per 3 seats. As Kevin stated, we're looking to make as minimal improvements on the main lot as possible, understanding that there is some potential to redevelop the rest of the site. Essentially, we're touching just the parking associated with the building so that we can increase the landscape area, create a new walkway, and redo the parking closest to the building. So you can see that the pavement is in gray, the new pavement that we're proposing to do. We're proposing to just touch the entry in that currently exists there today, and that's to reconstruct those concrete walks on both sides so that we can get a 10-foot walk on both sides across that portion of frontage that you can see is in kind of the yellowy gray concrete color. And as Kevin stated, we're including a hardscape pedestrian plaza with some benches, which will help us meet that 60% frontage requirement as far as pedestrian plaza and building. So we're creating an area that's 20 feet wide, that's just over 2,000 square feet at the front of the site, with some bench area that will allow people to congregate, to sit, to relax outside of the parking area there and get off, essentially, the paved right-of-way. Some of the other items associated with this proposal, we are increasing impervious by just over about 1,200 square feet. So in that landscape area in the front, essentially we're taking that 1,500 square foot patio area and just casually sloping it very slightly to the front of the lot and creating a very shallow swale out there. So that clean water that'll come off the patio would be infiltrated into the ground in the front there, and that would would overflow and connect into the existing drain line that runs through the project site from Main Street out to the wetland at the southern portion of the property. So that water would be clean. It would just come off the patio, and a majority of that would infiltrate. We are also making some water line changes. It came to our attention in the last couple of weeks that there's actually a 10-inch water main that comes through the area of the proposed building, which brings water to the Kmart building. So we'll be rerouting that around this building to a more appropriate location as part of this project also. We have also prepared a landscape plan, which I'm not showing you the landscape features here, but the landscape plan is in your packet, essentially showing plantings around the building and in that front buffer area that complement the small drainage area that's out front there, and also buffers the front of the property, the patio, and the area between the sidewalk and the building on the side and rear of the site. I believe that pretty much covers everything as far as... Oh, of course, yeah. As far as the site is concerned, we're obviously looking to work with the town and make sure that we meet the requirements. So we've made some revisions that we'd like to submit tomorrow, really, is to get the review process going and make sure that we meet the requirements of the letters that have been brought to our attention to date. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer anything to do with the site.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, we got the revisions this morning, so
Right.
not only have we not really had a chance
Yeah.
to review it, neither have any of our departments or other boards, so I don't think we'll be in any sort of position to approve this tonight, but I do want to go over some of the remaining questions. I think, well, I'll ask other members of the board first if there are specific questions that people have. Peter.
I had a question about the curb cut that is just adjacent to your new building here. There were several recommendations from different departments that be closed, and you just used the south curb cut. I think you said you weren't going to do that. We are trying to cut down the number of curb cuts in Kelly's Corner to help with the traffic flow and pedestrian access. So I'm just wondering what the reasons are that you, from a business model, still want to have that curb cut.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Berry. There's a couple of reasons behind it, and I think my memo addresses one of them. But I'll get to the other first. Our lease area does not encompass that curb cut. So that curb cut is part of the remaining land lease area, and so we envision that as part of a future potential redevelopment of that project, it'd be more appropriate to address it at that time. Right now, what we're dealing with in our estimation is a pre-existing curb cut that we aren't altering in location, size. We're making some minor improvements to that general area, but not such that we think necessitates closing the curb cut. We know that our model, our restaurant will function fine with it there. In the future, if it's determined that that curb cut needs to be closed as part of a redevelopment, then we would have very little to say about that at this stage. But for now, what we are able to propose is leaving it there, and I think that there's justification to leave it there in your own bylaw as it pertains to pre-existing conditions.
Okay, thank you. Also, it mentions an increase in impervious surface. I thought there was all parking lot around there, so I don't understand where the heck the new impervious surface is.
I know, I was honestly surprised when I did the calculation, but essentially because we are increasing the building on both the north-hand side towards the Verizon building, we are increasing building where there's currently some green space there, and then at the back corner also. So it's minor in nature, but I wanted to make sure we took care of that 1,200 square feet as to not impact any of the abutters, so.
Okay. And then finally, there are some comments from the Design Review Board that I don't think you responded to. They have to do with the materials you're using on the face of the building and whatnot, and there seems to be a conflict actually between the requirement for a 10-foot landscape buffer, and the Design Review Board seems to think that cuts back on the pedestrian seating space, and maybe it's better to cut down on the landscape and increase your pedestrian or your seating area, outdoor seating area. So I'd ask you just to, it looks like we probably continue this tonight, given that we just got your comments this morning, but I'd ask you to look at that Design Review Board comments and give us some response to those as well. Thank you.
Janet?
Yeah, I would thank you, Peter, for bringing up the DRB's comments. I assume you have the memo.
We do, and I know that, we had made revisions to the architectural renderings after the design review hearing. Some of those then were amended again because of, and just recently in the last few days, because of some comments that were probably in conflict with the Kelly's Corner design requirements, which are quite unique, but distinct in many ways unwaivable. So, but I will have, in light of our most recent architectural revisions, I think it's probably best that we have the architect respond to those now with the most recent revisions that will be in your hands.
We probably also recommend going back to the Design Review Board between now and then if you have revised, because I think that, I also don't think they had a chance to comment on the landscaping plans as well.
No,
so
and
it's probably
did
worth
you
it.
say that we got the material?
I
We
didn't see
didn't, because
the
I don't see
landscaping.
any landscaping plan in these two handouts.
They should
I
be
see-
in
No,
this.
the landscape plan didn't change from the previous submission.
Did
I
we
don't know
get
that
the
we, I don't know that we
landscaping
ever
plan?
saw the landscape.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe it's buried in a,
It was probably a page of the site plan.
because I think that is something that the DRB had requested to look at, and frankly, I would want them to look at it because they have landscaping architects on. The chairman is a landscape architect, so I think they'd be interested in that. One of the questions, I know that they from dealing with them previously, and I think it is a concern when you have a facade of the building that's not interesting to look at. I know that they were talking about one of the walls. I think it was the north elevation, and that, I think those redesigned sort of colored illustrations don't show the north elevation. I think they show the tower thing is facing, so that one faces Main Street, and then you're showing the,
I think we do actually show the.
do you show, but it's
Yeah, we
not.
have it. It's underneath
I think
there.
that, well, I know that in our handouts, there's a wall that's got just nothing, but mostly just wall. And I don't know which, maybe it's west, but,
Yeah, one thing they suggested was to try to make another, like an appearance of almost another entrance, so that there's like another front. So we did add glass
Okay.
To that side as well,
okay.
and broke it up a little bit more.
And then my question has to do with the increase in impervious surface, but it's in connection with stormwater management. We don't yet have the bylaw in place. At next week's special town meeting, there will be a presentation of this bylaw that it's pre, it's during, and post-construction stormwater management that the EPA requires communities, basically in Massachusetts, to comply with. We are admittedly a little bit behind schedule, but it would address a project like this, which in pertinent part is going to involve a disturbance of greater than 5,000 square feet. I don't want to say that you have to comply with it, but I think that in the spirit of the bylaw, and given that I don't think the stormwater system on the site has been touched. I like the swale idea that you have. That's going to deal with water coming off of the patio, but I'm wondering about the water where the drainage is for the parking areas. I know I saw a plan somewhere that had, I think, screens or filters or something covering some of the drains to probably ensure that stuff didn't flow from the construction into the drain pipe. But my concern is that from the parking lot into the drain, it goes straight out to the wetlands that I guess are behind the Kmart building. And while wetlands, that is one thing that wetlands do, is clean the water before it's infiltrated into the ground. Wetlands that are sort of compromised can also die, so I would like to keep the wetlands healthy by ensuring that the water that's going into the drain system is somehow, if you can get more of it to be treated or softened or filtered before it goes into the system, that would be great. And maybe that's too much to ask, but just best management practices, which is a big term in stormwater management. Your engineers, I'm sure, will know all about that, but just think about it because it's also a way to address the water district's concern about irrigation needs for plantings. If you can maximize your use of rainwater by having the irrigation come from the rainfall as opposed to using water service to keep the plants alive. That's another reason I think the DRB would want to look at the planting plan to sort of ensure that the plants that are there are sort of low maintenance, so not drawing on water. So
you will see in my memo that we did respond to, there was a comment about the style of the plants, and there will be drought tolerant planting. So we do plan on that. So.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Ready?
First of all, that bench area, is that something that the public, not just customers, use? Is that just like a streetscape?
It's a pedestrian plaza, like it's not envisioned to be part of the restaurant. It's sort of like a facade, like a welcoming area for the public.
But it's maintained by the
Yes.
restaurant. I didn't really understand your reasoning about the curb cut, and I wonder if you could make that clear.
Sure. So,
I mean,
which part?
I mean, is the question about whether that curb cut, that entry right next to the restaurant has to be there or not? Like, why couldn't you not have that and just enter through the Kmart?
Because we don't control that area. So our lease area doesn't include that curb cut. And so that's common area that Kmart uses as well.
Right.
And so it's not within our authority to close it. We don't think that.
No, I wasn't suggesting closing it. I was suggesting using the Kmart one and closing the one closer to the building.
Neither one of them are within our lease area. So it's not within our authority to close either one of them. And so, like I said, we think that there's a couple of things at play here. One, there's nothing that we can do legally to agree to close that off. The second piece of that is we sort of envisioned the town would have another bite at this apple for, eventually when the balance of the site is redeveloped, whenever that may be, maybe sooner than later. And then the third piece of that is it is a pre-existing condition. And right now, I think the bylaw allows for one curb cut for every 200 feet of frontage. And there's 360 some odd feet of frontage. I don't want to say it's not a highly egregious nonconformity, but it's not that stark of of a non-conforming than what might otherwise be allowed. We're absent less than 40 feet, then those 2 curb cuts would be allowed by right. But again, you know, it's a pre-existing condition, so we are comfortable that we've been able to design around it, that it won't pose a safety issue with our use. If a subsequent user comes along for the balance of the site, this board or the planning board or another department will sort of have another look at that.
And I just have to say, I'm sort of disappointed, even with just 10 feet of sidewalk there. And I don't know what's in the Kelly's Corner plan, but pretty much I'm disappointed that we're seeing this go in, yet we're seeing pictures coming from Kelly's Corner design that show these buildings that have maybe housing above and stores below and this and that. And then this is just going to be plunked in there and not able to be moved out of the way or changed to fit with those plans of the Kelly's Corner plan. So I feel like this is it's very disappointing to have this.
There's a couple of things. We have to live within the bylaw that exists today. So we can't come to you with a plan that says, we're going to show you a plan that meets your conceptualized Kelly's Corner that may or may not be approved in the spring because we wouldn't be in compliance with the bylaw as it's written now. And so we've done the best that we can to design a very aesthetically pleasing building that will revitalize, I think we can all agree, an area of that lot that is in dire need of revitalization. I mean, that McDonald's corner there is in tough shape. I drive by it quite frequently. I frequent the Orange Leaf across the street with my kids, and this will be a huge benefit, we believe, to the town of Acton. The restaurant is thriving in our 2 other locations. Like I said, we're opening 2 more, one in Hopkinton and one in Berlin, and we have been working feverishly to make this plan comply with what we have to comply with by law. We can't, it may not be what the town envisions a few years from now, or maybe even next year, but it's not within our power or yours to let us comply with that future plan.
It's just so, I mean, we're talking 5 months.
5 months is, for a business, respectfully, for a small business, 5 months is an eternity. It's a very long, long time.
But is there a way to, instead of having a faux second floor, having potential for growth up, for example?
No.
So I just have to say that I'm really disappointed about that. And
We probably, to be frank, we wouldn't put residences above a restaurant anyway. It wouldn't be a place where generally people would want to live above. It's not our business. It's not our business model. We would be within our right, probably under your new bylaw, to not do mixed use, even though it might be permitted. We would probably be permitted not to do it as well. So, we could come in with a plan that would be substantially similar to this, though the design parameters might be a little more flexible. So, really, I think what you're getting is probably not all that different than what we would do 6, 7, 8 months from now, except that we have to live with the gabled roofs, which we don't necessarily have in our other locations in the second-story facade. So.
Okay, and that 136,000, does that mean that's a limit of all mitigation, any money?
It's the sewer privilege fee.
Okay, so I just wanted to note, I've noted before that Lexington funds a lot of its transportation program by new buildings being built. They get transportation, I don't know if it's a yearly, it might be even a yearly participation in the transportation program. And I'm sort of hoping that we institute that kind of thing sooner than later. So.
I had a question. So the Pedestrian Plaza, is this in an area that you guys do control in your lease? Because you don't control that curb cut area, but you do control the area that has a pedestrian plaza in it?
We don't. Everything that we do outside of that leased area, we need approval from the landlord.
Okay, and so you currently do not have approval to do that, or do?
The plan the way it's structured in the lease, we submit plans to the landlord as we go along.
Okay.
And then they have to approve all final plans as well.
Okay, so yeah, I think, I mean, again, you know, we're probably going to continue this tonight, so before you come back next time, we'd want to see, because I think there is a note from Stop and Shop approving the old plan, but, you know, obviously not seeing the new one. I think we'd want to see a letter from them approving that, particularly with regards to this pedestrian plaza issue, because it is part of our requirements that you get that frontage, and without their approval, you can't do that, and
Well,
you
you're-
can't meet our zoning.
But
so.
any permit that you approved would approve it with that pedestrian plaza.
Sure.
So if we were not allowed to do it from Stop and Shop, we would have a permit that
Right,
would
but
have
I'm just
no
recommending, I think it
force.
would be best for you guys to come back to us with a letter from Stop and Shop approving the revised plans
Well,
as
we can try. They may be reluctant to do that until this plan is finally approved and blessed by this board, again, because of the way the lease is structured. And the other thing I will say is that Stop and Shop, big corporation, it's not as easy for me to say, get something from them in 2 weeks' time when I would like to be continued to.
Kristen, did you
Just
want to
wanted
address
to
that?
make a note on that. We would actually strongly recommend that you get a letter from the property owner. It's a requirement for site plan approval, and because there's a substantial change being made outside of that delineated lease area, we think it's very important. And also to note, the planning department actually just approved, and a freestanding sign was just erected in that same exact location. So that's why, you know, another reason why we think it's pretty important, because there's another tenant actually that has a sign in that location that you're showing, so.
Like I said, we can endeavor to do so, though I do think this board is well within its authority to condition a permit accordingly, and if we do not get landlord approval, then we don't have a project to build. So I will certainly endeavor to do so.
Okay. I think we're in a bit of a circular, but, and then just addressing the privilege fee, I mean, you know, obviously we need to hear back from the Board of Health, but I think normally they do sort of reduce it, the seasonal seats, and I think that their proposed numbers did have the kind of reduction for the number of months for those outdoor seats. And it's, you know, I sort of understand your argument, except that when you have when people are able to sit at the outdoor seats, it's not as though any of the seats inside go away. So if, you know, I came and sat outside, I'm not taking up a seat inside that Janet could then sit at. So we're taking up 2 seats that, you know,
Well,
wouldn't be
Ms.
one,
Green,
so.
I completely understand what you're saying. What I'm telling you is that in our experience as operating a restaurant, we will not have 250 people in that restaurant, or 240 people in that restaurant, just because it's summer and we have patio seats. So what we're suggesting is that it's certainly not a one-to-one. The additional capacity is there, but again, we would never say, because we're full on the inside, seat people outside unless they specifically want it to be. And so in some ways, unless people have a preference for being outside, we would still be capped at 189 seats. So what we're saying is, in practice, we don't see it the way that the water department did, from, you know, essentially saying 1/3 of the privilege fee that would be required for that number of seats.
Well, we can ask them. I mean, I'm pretty sure in the past for the other folks that have paid privilege fees that have outdoor seating, that we do it that way, but we can, you know, again, we'll ask for comments again. Peter, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, are you done? I mean, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, I think we set the betterment fees. We're the sewer commissioners.
Correct, but we've done similar stuff in the past, and I'm pretty
Right.
sure they've recommended.
Yeah, I thought you mentioned the Board of Health. I think it's us, actually, that sets it, but, I mean, that's what I hear you saying. You'll never have more than 189 patrons, even though you have seating for 200 and whatever, 240.
I wouldn't say that it's, like Ms. Green said, it's not an impossibility, but what we're saying is functionally, it would be a pretty rare instance.
Okay. I had a question about the traffic study, which engineering suggests, you know, the language in the zoning bylaw, I guess, depends on what the existing traffic conditions are.
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's has been closed for maybe 5 years, I don't know how long, but at least that probably. Do you have a legal analysis of of that language and whether the fact
No.
that it's been closed?
Well, the way that
you
it's-
say existing conditions are no traffic, or you go back to what the traffic was when it was open?
No, well, but if you did take a look at we had an analysis, a preliminary analysis done by VAI, Finesse. What they noted was that the traffic generated by a 94-seat fast food restaurant was actually more than the traffic that would be generated from our restaurant with our seating capacity. So when we're actually a lesser condition than what was previously approved. So yes, you don't have, for the last 4 years or however long McDonald's has been out of business, you're not noticing that absence of traffic. But at one point, that was there, and that was more intense than what we're proposing to do in the same location. So I guess what I'm suggesting is you know that it works with the fast food restaurant there. The town does know that it works with that fast food restaurant there. It will work with our proposal, which is less intensive.
Okay. And then the last comment I would have is on the stormwater runoff. I think both engineering and the water department, which is a totally separate, water district's totally separate from us, so they have conditions that you have to meet also. There's apparently a water impact thing or something. But I think our engineering and the water district both suggest that recharge of the roof runoff would be a good idea. And the water district may require that as part of their impact report, apparently, that you have to file with them. And our engineering department also suggests some kind of gas hoods or something in the catch basins. I don't know, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but they think that would help with the runoff also. So I'd ask you to take a look at those. Thanks.
Okay, Franny?
I just want to say again, the thing that I'm disappointed about, it's so random that you have this Kmart back there and then this McDonald's right here. And then this business is creating a whole restaurant right where that McDonald's was without the benefit of looking at the entire site. And it's just really a bummer to keep that weird configuration.
Janet?
I just have one comment and then a question, but the comment has to do with the traffic issue, and we've dealt with traffic issues before, and typically the data that are used, I assume it's national publication. Nobody sat and took notes about what the traffic was at McDonald's in anticipation of having this restaurant. So it's sort of very generalized data, and I have no idea what the actual traffic was generated at the McDonald's before it closed. So I tend to be a little bit leery of the data that's generalized like that. The other question I had is this design, is this your brand? Is this, do the facilities in the other locations and the ones that you're planning for the other locations look?
For the most part, largely the only difference is the gabled roof. Nashua is very similar to that structure.
Okay, and I have one more comment about the design, because Franny had mentioned it was a shame not to have a real second floor. The DRB did mention that there's a section of the building where it's sort of a faux second floor, and I think they were talking about this part of the building, this part, it's sort of maybe taking advantage of the second floor to make it a real second floor entrance. I don't know, you can look at the comments and consider that, but that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kristen, did you have anything you wanted to add?
So most of you have mentioned, we haven't seen the plan, so we do need adequate time to review. I wanted to point out a few things that we just kind of noticed that I think should be highlighted. The Pedestrian Plaza location, our interpretation of the bylaw talks about the Pedestrian Plaza being on the side of the building. That interpretation means on the side of the building without having an access drive separating the two. With that, the planning department stands firm about removing or closing that access drive. As Katie mentioned, they are touching the entryway in, and anything that's being modified needs to be brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw as it sits today. So we would like to have time to look over the plans again, but wanted to make sure that, our interpretation was kind of brought out to the open now, sooner rather than later, so.
Could I generally respond to that?
Sure.
We've read the bylaw as well, and I think it takes a lot of extrapolation to get there. To say that there needs to be a access drive to be able to cut through, or that, rather, there can't be a pedestrian drive that cuts through. It is on the side of where the building is located. Again, I think it meets the requirement, the literal requirement of the bylaw. And I think it takes a lot of interpretation, and I feel as if the interpretation is geared towards specifically closing that one area. And so I think there's a strained effort here to do that, which concerns me on a number of levels.
Okay, noted. Are there any questions or comments from the audience? Yes, sir. If you can just come up, turn on the microphone, and state your name and address.
Yes, Rob Jackson, 246 and 248 Main Street, president of Crossroads Condominium Association. I had a question about the raising of the building. The building dates back to, I guess, the 1950s. So I just wanted to see, what, dust control measures or, building abatement may be required for the building, and has that been looked into at this point? That's the first question. Hours of construction is the second question. What are you folks going to do about noise? We have a community that's in pretty close proximity, and I think most of our residents aren't fully aware of what is being proposed here. We do agree that it's definitely a site that needs to be dealt with, but want to make sure we don't cause any human health impacts or impacts the environment. The stormwater question is certainly of particular importance. We've had to deal with a notice of intent as our development was built within the setback of the wetland. We want to make sure that discharges are, hopefully there aren't any discharges, but we heard the term discharges spoken here. So infiltration obviously is the preferred path. We went above and beyond to try to demarcate the boundary of that wetland with boulders, and we understand that that wetland is very important to the town of Acton as well. So that's a summary. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just note, generally in our decisions, there are specific hours that construction is allowed and not allowed, so that would be addressed. But okay, so Kristen, do you have a recommendation on how long to continue the hearing for? How long you guys need for review and et cetera?
Well, given our other projects and thinking about giving the plans, revised plans out to other departments, I would say about a month would be adequate time.
Okay. So that's, I'm trying to see when our, December 7th, is that our meeting date? Okay.
I recognize that we did just submit plans today in my memo today, but it's not a full review, it's modifications, and we really, again, time is a concern for us. We'd like to try to see if everybody could review the plans in 2 weeks. If not, maybe we evaluate it at that point and continue a month. But it's a challenge, especially with the holidays coming up, because we're going to lose a meeting, I'm sure, along the way.
We have our meeting set. We're not going to lose one of them.
How many hearings do you have scheduled in December?
We have 2 meetings scheduled in December, and we'll hold both of those. We're not losing one of those.
Again, if it's possible to try to expedite the review, that would be great.
Lisa, can I ask if we even have time on the 16th, or how that meeting's looking? Yeah, so I mean, I think just considering both that and the need for, right, we've got a special town meeting on the 10th. We've got 4 hearings on the 16th and not enough time in between. So I would highly recommend that we continue it to the 7th. But if anybody would like to make a motion to that effect or a difference. Yeah. permission to do
If
it.
it's full.
I mean, or we,
If it's full, it's full, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
All I was suggesting is if it's
Sure.
possible, it's hard for us to wait a month.
Sure.
We'll have to do it.
yeah, I think we've got like an over-service and a couple other hearings, so I just wouldn't recommend.
And not to press the point again, but a month might give you extra time to get that agreement
Right.
from the property owner, because again, we do have a freestanding sign that's at that location that has certain landscaping requirements dimensionally, so that's going to cut into that pedestrian plaza. So, I mean, these are things that I think we need to, a month will give you time to resolve that too, hopefully.
We did have a new Kmart sign pop up that I just noticed driving by the other day, so.
Yeah, I
We'll
think
take a
that's
look at that.
sign there.
Okay, I move to continue the hearing to December 7th at 7:30 PM.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Either way. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. I mean, we appreciate your, if you could just sign this. Look at this right here. You guys just to sign this.
Rest on the side. It says right, I'll show you how to sign. I'll show you.
Okay, CPA Application Presentation. Do you have an intro, Steve? Do you have an intro to this at all, or you want to kick it off in any way, or just dive in?
Well, as usual, we like to hear what CPA requests town departments are desiring to submit to the Community Preservation Committee, and we'd like them to present to the board, and then the board at this meeting decide which ones they feel should go on through the process to be a formal application to the CPC. So I think we have, if I counted correctly, about 7 this evening, and you have them all in your packets. I'm not sure who you want to start with, but pretty much everybody's here, I think.
Your choice. Which department has been? Yeah, this is now Steve revealing his favorite department. No, I'm just kidding. I think the first one I have in front of me is health, so do we want to start there?
Fine.
Okay. And no reflection of how much I like or dislike departments here.
So, Bettina, are you doing
Trail
the-
through time.
to
Who's
Trail
doing
Through
that?
Time?
No, that's doesn't help.
Well, he's retired. So I guess,
All right.
That was before, I think he wrote that, was it before he left?
yeah, I believe he did, but there's nobody here to speak to it tonight, I guess.
Okay, so we will skip over Trail Through Time for the moment. Was that the only one in health? Okay. I think the next one in my packet is Historic District Commission. Do we have anybody from HDC? No? Okay. All right, they're just not everybody's here. Okay, Natural Resources. Bettina, you are here, and Tom.
We'll just go through the two, Yeah, but you know what they are.
Yeah, but I don't remember what I said. Can I borrow your copies of my grant application? Thank you, sorry. Is it the PIP?
It's a little weird, you don't have your stuff.
No, you're scaring me. Ooh, what is this?
All right, you guys want to kick it off? I think you've got two applications.
Okay, our first one is the Assabet River Green and Blue Trail, and this actually was a grant that ORS wrote and we supported last winter, and it received funding through the 2015 Massachusetts Recreational Trails Program. And our contribution to their grant was to create a couple of parking areas and cut a trail along the river, as well as install some boardwalks similar to the way the three at the Arboretum have been constructed and reconstructed recently. And we learned through, kind of the hard way through our Arboretum parking lot project, that the highway department is pretty booked up. And we kind of would have been relying on them for some help in building the parking area. So we're seeking CPA funding to help our contribution towards the ORS grant that we were contributing.
Questions from board members? I just had one. So the ORS grant is covering all of the work being done in Maynard, and then we kind of agreed as part of that to fund.
Yeah, they
stuff
were
in
making these particular trail maps, green and blue trail maps, and they got funding. I think the most expensive thing for them is this handicap accessible kayak launching dock, and that's at the Ben Smith Dam in Maynard, yes.
And there was no discussion, though, of having some of the grant go to the work that we would be doing on our end, and Maynard paying for some of the, you know what I mean? It just seems a little weird that they're getting all the funding and then we're having to fund our part of it.
Right, and that was sort of the leverage was, going to be
okay.
our contribution.
Okay.
And, we would help a lot. We would have land stewards and, we.
Eagle Scouts.
In Eagle Scouts, help with the boardwalks.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think overall it's a good, Peter?
We have a canoe landing over on the other side of Route 62. This would be on Old High Street?
This is
And then-
upriver.
Okay, down by the dam, is
It's
that?
upriver from canoe launch.
The answer is yes.
Okay. And so the boardwalk would run, what, behind Leo's Subaru?
It's actually on the opposite side of the river. It's on the, at the base of the slope, below the leaching fields for the town's Adams Street leaching
Okay.
field. It's right along the edge there, so
Did you look at using the current parking for the canoe landing and running the boardwalk along? There's already a trail there, I guess, along that section of the Assabet, I think.
yeah,
I guess, so.
there actually isn't a trail on that side of the Assabet. This just keeps it in an area that's all town-owned, and
Okay.
it connects to town-owned land in Maynard, so it doesn't infringe on or, go into privately owned property.
Okay.
The other side of the river is all privately owned.
Okay. And also, you got a wildlife management grant program habitat thing attached here. Is that part of this, too?
Next.
That's a different grant.
Oh, that's another grant?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Franny? Yep.
Is there potential to have rental? Like to have some kind of thing like they have in Groton on the Nashua River where they have a little rental area?
Not part of this grant, but there probably could be. ORS certainly sponsors a lot of interesting kayaking and canoeing activities. This is just infrastructure. This is parking lot, access through a boardwalk, and then a really beautiful trail system along the edge of the river.
Intertown, and it goes into Maynard as well, and our Conservation Commission would be cooperating with their Conservation Commission to allow the work in the wetlands.
And is there any blockage, like dams or anything in either direction? Like how far can you boat from there? Like how long an area?
This starts at the old High Street Dam and then goes upstream towards Maynard. So you could probably comfortably canoe up into Maynard Center where the first vertical, where the first big dam is. And that would be probably a mile and a half or a mile or so of open water. A lot of it's impounded by the dam at Old High Street. So it's fairly, fairly broad. It's a good sized pond.
Yeah, I've paddled it, I've put in and come down river there, and it's beautiful.
Is the parking area paved? Is it paved parking or is it? gravel or whatever?
It would be crushed stone, like all of our conservation parking lots.
Okay, any other questions on this one? Okay. All right, do you guys want to talk about the other, you had a second one, right? Second application? Green Blue Trail?
Yes.
Oh, no, was it all both?
Right.
Looks like the application form in our packet is the same
just in there
form.
It got
Twice.
stapled together, yeah, both
Oh,
of them
okay.
together.
That's what happened, okay.
It looks like the grant page is not
Yeah, I think we
included.
didn't get that.
You have it?
No, I think we did not get it. I think the application for the Green Blue Trail is in here twice, and we don't have the,
Oh, darn. Okay, this one is, we currently have, and you can read about, you might have read about these in our open space and rec plan, the OSRP. We have some meadow management plans on several meadows in several of our conservation lands, and we also have a forest management plan for the Weatherby parcel. Neither of which do we really have the staff to be able to implement these meadow management plans and the forest management plan, because they involve a lot of staff hours and also heavy machinery. The meadow management plans involve clearing a lot of invasive species. If this were a meadow, they're usually bounded by stone walls, clearing to the full extent of the meadow, and there's a lot of non-native invasive species that come in over the wall, and you would require heavy machinery to be able to mow and get around to the edge of the stone walls. And then also, it would involve hours of having a certified applicator be able to use herbicide on certain invasive species that have really colonized and taken over the meadows, just to get the upper hand on them. So it would just be, the amount of work would probably be able to take about 1 year, and we'd hire professional contractors to do that work. And we would be, Paula Goodwin and I, who's Conservation Commissioner, we attended the Habitat Mass Wildlife Workday last weekend, and they announced this Habitat Management Grant Program. So we were actually going to apply for their grant, and if we get it, and if we got funded for the heavy brush hogging and the herbicide, then we would withdraw our CPA application. They don't need any leveraging, but CPA does. So if Habitat gave us partial funding, then that could become our leverage for CPA, our CPA grant. And maybe we could lower the amount that we're asking for.
do you remember how much you're asking for?
Yeah,
Just
it's
'cause
$20,000.
Okay.
And it's a total guess out of the blue. I mean, this is just, it's very preliminary right now. We, and also through the Habitat Management Grant Program, you have to use all the mass buys. What are those, what's it called when you, the people on the bid list, the
Oh, when
state
you go
bid
for
list, you have to
procurement,
use
yeah,
them, yeah.
combis,
So
okay.
pretty much Paul and I will be, contacting some of these different companies and getting price quotes, and then we can give you a more accurate idea, including price quotes, what it would cost.
Questions from board members in this one? Okay. So those are your two? Okay, excellent, thank you. Okay, wait, here's my pile of ones we haven't gone through. Okay. Open space is just the request for 450,000.
This is kind of their annual request.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, what is the annual debt service on the Wright Terrace acquisition?
We purchased Bright Terrace last year, 2 years ago?
Well, we haven't issued the final debt yet, so we're in temporary borrowing.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
I think that last year, I may be wrong about this, but one of the CPA grants was to actually fund those interest payments on that Wright Hill purchase. So I think,
Correct.
yeah, yeah. We identified money to pay for that, and I think we asked for permission to use some of our money to pay for that.
For every year? For the whole thing? I thought it was just for the 1 year.
Maybe Rowan knows more about that.
It was $7,000 for the short-term debt,
Yeah.
until the town would be able to put a bigger bond package together. So it was a one-time thing.
Yeah. Okay, well, don't go far, because planning, you're up next. If there was anybody that wanted to talk about, oh, this is for ACHC. Yeah. Yeah. Right, which is also annual.
Right.
Okay.
It's turned in.
Any questions on that from people? Okay. All right, recreation. I see Kathy fiddling with the computer. Almost there, okay. Are you doing a PowerPoint? Because I can hit the lights. Recreation? That's the, yeah, they're looking weird. Yeah, open space is just the, my back's killing me. Okay.
This is the one here.
All right, thank you very much for hosting this. I'm here to talk about, give you a quick presentation of 5 separate proposals that Recreation has in front of you. This is just a quick recap. Recreation is currently working on several different projects, and they are going to be wrapped up by the spring of this coming year. Phase 1 of the skate park expansion, the skate bowl, is going out to bid at the end of this month, and the construction phase will begin in June 15th of next year. The Elm Street tennis court and playground are about 97% complete. We need 1 or 2 more benches to complete the facility, and then we'll be wrapped up. And we will likely have some turn back as well. Nara Comfort Station, I'm going to cover that in the preceding slides. Junior basketball courts, I have them in the hands of Town Council. We're looking to do a spring construction project with those junior courts. And Nara improvements, that involved some security upgrades at the Nara bathhouse. They have been completed. It also involved 2 shade structures being installed, both at the beach and the playground. We've purchased those shade structures. They'll be installed in the spring. So most of these projects will be wrapped up next spring. What really informs these 5 projects is the fact that we're looking forward to the next 10 years and devising a Nara master plan. The basic drivers of these items are the coming of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, which will be opened up in the spring of 2017, and the growth of our new picnic pavilion and the facility rentals. just to give you a sampling, these are the types of projects we'll be looking forward to over the next 10 years to bring Nara into the next decade. The first project, the Nara Parking Control Project. We're looking at several different factors. We're looking at the fact that we are facing, at times, park overuse in terms of the volume of people coming into the park and our control over their coming and going. Also, concerns about public safety and the fact that volume will increase in 2 years when Bruce Freeman opens up. In fact, our staffing at Nara now includes the hiring of park rangers, people who are solely assigned to overseeing the control of the park, basically people coming and going into the park and utilizing the facilities. We found during our master plan polling that many have had concerns about the, basically the volume of visitors, and particularly those who are not Acton residents. Over the past summer, we've been reviewing what other parks and rec departments are doing in their towns, and we've gotten some good ideas from them. However, we realize that we need more help. It's not a problem that we can solve easily. We made an attempt last year to install security gates for the inner roadway at Nara. However, we think it's a broader issue that we really need some help with. And we think what we do require is to put some more serious money into this, hire a consultant, and look at what types of security measures we can put in to help control parking. And we think parking is the key here. It's hard to control what people are doing in the park if they've already parked and they're moving about the facility. So what we foresee is that this will involve either manual or electronic gates at all the parking entry points, multi-space parking meters, a fee for non-residents when they, basically an admission fee to the park. And as part of this project, we would foresee consulting with other departments within the town, such as the DPW, other sticker issuing departments who have the experience dealing with this kind of control, such as at the South Acton train station. We certainly don't want our police department coming in every weekend and having to remove people who are overflowing onto Quarry Road or any of the adjacent streets. So that's what I mean by unintended consequences. We want to really study this issue and get some more expert help in defining what the issues are and how to address them. Next project is the Jones Playground renovation. This is the next playground in a series of existing playgrounds that we feel is due for an overhaul. We basically are finding that the playground is quickly deteriorating. We find surfaces have worn out. We have peeling going on, hornets taking residence in the equipment. It also lacks handicap accessibility. It was designed at the time in 1996 with a pea stone surfacing that you can see in this photo. Definitely not wheelchair navigable. The pea stone is surrounded by timbers, which are definitely a hazardous material. It needs to go. We have been soliciting the community. We put out a playground survey, got some great feedback from particularly the neighborhood, because when it was built in 1996, the neighborhood played a big role in fundraising and bringing the current playground into being. We have the support of the Acton Family Network and also a number of neighborhood volunteers have stepped up, and they're starting some fundraising activities as we speak. So we are looking to get some leverage from fundraising activities from both AFN and the volunteers. So $150,000 is what we're looking for. There are 2 quotes I believe we supplied with our packet here, so we feel comfortable with that number. Now, we're going to speak about 2 different bathroom concession facilities that we're looking to undertake as major projects over the next couple of years. We have the need for bathrooms at Nara. I brought a project last year to build a modular structure to be adjacent to the picnic pavilion. We feel at this point that what we need to see is a bathroom facility in the upper part of the park and the lower part of the park. The first of the 2 projects would be what we're calling the Rail Trail Comfort Station. This is an example of one of 3 different modular buildings that have been offered by Redmond Corporation. They're located on Rex Lane and will soon be removed, and Redmond Corp would love to see these structures, which are in very good condition, reused for a good purpose. And we think we have a great purpose for all 3 of them. So the first of our projects, the Rail Trail Comfort Station, would be installed near the bathhouse. It would basically sit where our gray tent storage is located today and provide concession and bathroom facilities, particularly for the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail users. The second of the projects is what we're calling the Miracle Field Comfort Station. We brought this to the CPC before and received funding for a design. We worked on that design, and with the gift of these 2 modular structures, we feel that we have great leverage to get this project constructed. Basically, it would service both the Miracle Field users and provide a special need they have for a family bathroom. But it would service everyone who circles the park and also the field users as well. We have a cost estimate that was given to us by OMR, so we have a pretty good handle on what will be required to take 2 of these modular buildings and create a pretty good structure. Here's a schematic of the 2 buildings side by side. They would be unified by a roof that you see in this conceptual drawing. Last but not least is the T.J. O'Grady Skate Park. As I mentioned before, the skate bowl is going under construction. That's phase 1 of this new design to expand the skate park. Phase 2 is the building of a triangular skate plaza. And I have a picture for you to see. This is phase 1, the skate bowl. Phase 2 is to take the rest of the open space and create a plaza that also has a main entry point here and provides a really great park-like atmosphere for the skate park and a lot of really great recreational use. We think it's the best way to really bring our skate park up to par with the new Lower Fields project. I want to mention that this project is leveraged with a contribution that we are hoping to obtain with the help of the Boxborough Recreation Commission. I have a commissioner here with us tonight if you would be interested in asking her any questions. Mitzi Wheel is here, and she has just submitted a $40,000 application to the CPA committee in Boxborough. So just in summary, these are our projects. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from board members? Franny? Yep.
I was surprised at how much a bathroom costs. I mean, I was thinking about compared to building a house.
Well, these are 26 by 40 buildings. They are three-bedroom houses as they are now today.
That's true.
So they would be converted into multiple rooms, concession, bathrooms, office space, a small office, and some storage as well.
The other thing, Franny, I would add to that is that when you see these prices, that reflects prevailing wage costs too. So we don't simply build these, we have to, bid them at prevailing wage rates.
Right. Is it possible if only one of those bathrooms was filled that, like, bicyclists could go use the one in the back?
Well, I think our plan is to make this new facility open to the users of the rail trail.
Right, so, because ideally, we'd have one at the front that the rail trail users could use, and then...
Yeah, this would be located in the lower parking lot.
Right. No, I was thinking if only the Miracle Field got funded and the rail trail one didn't, is there an easy way for bicyclists to get to the back and use that one?
Not really. It's actually something we're concerned about is the increased use of bikes on the Nara trail system where it's really a walking trail. So we're trying to define and control where biking will occur. So the answer is no, there's not an easy way.
Yeah, our preference would be that they do their transfer to a bathroom through the lower parking lot rather than through the pathway system.
I was thinking if worse came to worse, they could, ride up the road or something, like right up Quarry Road. But anyway, ideally, I would love to see bathrooms at both the front and the back. And I had a question about the skate park. Oh yeah, maintaining the grounds. How is that done?
Through my department. Basically, we invest in things like cleanup and fixing any structures that need fixing. We just recently did a graffiti cleanup, and we repair. We've gone to taking portable structures and creating concrete structures to replace them because they just have such a longer lifespan.
Peter, question?
On the Miracle Field, are you going to run a pipe to the current septic system from there too, or are you going to build a new septic system up there?
Peter, when we did the gravel parking lot a few years ago, we did deep test holes, so we know the quality of the gravel up at the parking lot. We would put a separate septic system there.
Janet?
These are ambitious projects, but I was wondering, would you just confirm you were talking about investing in consultant to advise about parking, but I'm just wondering about security needs because you're going to have more and more infrastructure and you'll have the buildings and they'll be locked and you'll have like the snack bars and things like that, but I'm wondering if you're going to start thinking about having somebody sort of monitoring for security reasons and not simply for parking, just because you're probably going to attract more people because it'll be much more convenient. You have the bathrooms and other sort of amenities, and so I didn't know if that was part of your long-range plan as well.
It is. It was one of the items I had on that list, that laundry list of items. The personnel has been ramping up, As I said, we added a park ranger. Security is definitely something we have to look at.
And as Franny already asked about maintenance, because that was what I was wondering, who's cleaning all those bathrooms, It's always a big issue for me.
Well, not unlike the municipal properties department, we're probably going to look at services. Right now, the Nara staff handles it, but we'd like to do it better. So, we'll be looking at that as an option.
Okay, great, thank you.
I had a question. Does the funding for both the comfort stations include moving the buildings from their current location, or is, okay.
Yes.
Okay. And is there a timeline on, does this offer expire at some point? Do we need to have moved them by X date, that kind of
The answer is yes. We would have to get them off that site, I would think by next summer at the latest.
Okay.
The other
2016?
the other piece to this, Katie, that we can't really, I mean, it's hard to quantify. Certainly for the Miracle Field site, there's a tremendous amount of family interest in getting involved in the project itself. There's a lot of builders and carpenters and, roofers and whatever that have children that play at the Miracle Field League, and there's just this groundswell of energy to help us. So I don't know how we would actually quantify that. I don't know how legal it is to have people working on public property building, but that's there. It's just a matter of how we kind of,
Can harness it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think, there are so many people involved in putting the Miracle Field together that particularly for that one, I think you'd see a lot of support. And then, even the Bruce Freeman group for the one that would ostensibly service Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. So that's another group you might think about kind of leveraging.
Exactly. The Friends of Bruce Freeman are voting this week to support the conceptual design for the Bruce Freeman. So that piece will be funded, I'm pretty certain.
Oh, good. And then my question kind of dovetails on that about the Jones Field. So the group, I've been at the recreation meetings where we've talked about this, and, you did the survey and kind of found out what they needed. And there's a group forming to look at fundraising, but with that, then, is the idea that would sort of lower the cost of what you're requesting and you'd have turnbacks, or that what they would fundraise would provide additional services or play structures?
I think it would be a turnback situation.
Okay.
So they would offset the cost.
Okay. And my only question was just kind of the timing on this. I mean, are we going a little early in asking for CPA if they're kind of not quite ready yet? Does it make sense to do this year, or does it make sense to wait until there's a stronger fundraising, kind of group in place? And I don't know, maybe you can speak about kind of what you did, how it worked with, which way I'm
Goward
pointing with,
Playground?
but with Goward, yeah. Did that use any CPA funding for Goward?
It did not.
Okay.
But we did have a town appropriation originally.
And so was that
And we
appropriated
supplemented it with.
prior to the fundraising group coming
That is
together?
correct.
Okay,
Yes, it did come prior to the fundraising.
okay. So it's sort of similar.
So it would be a similar scenario.
Okay. Any other questions from board members on these projects? Okay.
And as I mentioned, we do have a Boxborough representative here,
Oh,
if you have any
yes.
questions for her.
And we'll note that this is Boxborough's first year with CPA.
Yes.
So. Okay, so then just to mention the ones that we haven't, I don't believe there are people here for, so Trail Through Time, hopefully everybody's reviewed all of these applications. This was for $30,000 related to the Trail Through Time project. We talked about the Open Space Committee, talked about Natural Resources, talked about RHSO, the Historic District Commission. I don't think there's anybody here from HDC tonight. Roland, did you want to address it?
Did you mention RHSO?
Yes, RHSO, yep. we
I
talked
was
about
kind of
that.
waiting for here for that, so.
Oh, okay.
If you want to,
If there are any questions, yeah, nobody had any. I mean, we're going to vote in a second on whether we want to put all of these forward, but I don't think anybody had questions about that one, but thank you. And then the HDC was a request for a consultant to help with their inventory, which was for $35,000. So for any, I think I've written down, you asked for a summary of all of them and the overall cost. So here's what I've got. Aspet River Green and Blue Trails, the other natural resources one related to meadow management, the funding for another year of RHSO services for affordable housing, the open space set-aside request, request from Health Department through work related to the Trail Through Time, and then the Nara parking, whatnot, Jones Playground, the Nara Comfort Station, the rail trail, the Miracle Field Comfort Station, the Rail Trail Comfort Station, the second phase of the skate park, and the Historic District Commission inventory. And I believe all of those total around 2.24, a little upwards of 2.24 million. So just for a question. And just to be clear, these are not all of the CPA applications. These are just the town department CPA applications. So our job tonight is just whether or not we feel it's appropriate to put all of these forward, or if people have concerns about any of them. And it's up to the CPC, the Community Preservation Committee, to actually decide which of these and any other applications to recommend and at what levels. And we will, I think Peter's recommending, as our CPC liaison, that later on in the year, the board could vote to prioritize the town applications, but for now, we should just discuss whether or not all of these, we would like to put all of these forward for CPA.
Yeah, last year we voted kind of quickly on the ranking of these applications that we moved forward to the CPC. There were a lot of discussions at the CPC about what that meant, were the selectmen saying if you don't fund the first one, you shouldn't fund the second one or whatever. My position, I think the board agreed, was that these are just recommendations in terms of ranking. I mean, we have applications here for at least double what we're going to be able to hand out this year. So I would just ask that, and Katie has agreed, that we think about these for a while and look at the applications in more depth before we vote on the ranking. We can vote on which ones we want to move to the CPC tonight, but whether we rank them, if we think that's a good idea, we could do that later after we've considered them all together in more depth.
And I think it's worth maybe you asking the CPC if that is even helpful for them, because I don't know that it is, especially if we're only ranking the town-related ones. That's not in relation to other applications they get, so I don't know how useful it is for them, so it's worth kind of having
Good
that.
idea. We have a meeting on the 17th when we will have all the applications. The deadline is just before that, so we'll have all applications non-town as well as ones we moved tonight, so.
So again, tonight, we're just discussing whether or not we want to put, as a board, think it's appropriate to put all of these forward. So are there any that people have concerns with? Let's go that route.
I'm frustrated because they're all so
Yeah.
good.
That's why it's up to CPC to decide and not us. So any that people feel like they do not want to put forward? Okay, then can I have a motion to, I don't know, if it's approve or recommend all of the proposed Community Preservation Act applications?
I move that we recommend consideration of all of these applications for CPC funds.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and thank you all for your work in putting these together. They are all really great projects, and I think it'll be tough for CPC to decide, and I'm glad I'm not on it, so.
I'm relieved. I thought we were going to have to order these.
Well, yeah, well, again, we might do that in the future, but not tonight. Yeah. Okay, I think we are down to the update on town meetings. Steve, do you want to?
Well, we have a few articles we have not taken positions on as of yet, and I believe Peter wanted to discuss the Kelly's Corner funding article, which we had recommended the last meeting, so I don't know, Madam Chair, if you want to start with Article 1. Article 1 is one we have not taken a position on. Late today, we received a red line version of Article 1 that the petitioner had submitted, because obviously the warrant had been printed. If any of these changes in the red line they desire to move forward with, they will have to do a floor amendment on town meeting, because the warrant is the warrant and it's posted. So that's one article we need to take a position on.
Yeah, why don't we start with that one?
Yeah.
Everybody should have seen the statement by the school committee, and Mike's here tonight if you have any questions about that. And then, as Steve mentioned, we received the red line today, but there was also a response from the petitioners responding to the school committee's statement as well that they provided today. You know, again, we need to take a position or not on the citizens petition as it's presented in the warrant if they amend it, we can address that then. I think, my recommendation would be that we don't take a position on this, because I don't think it is a article really, say, related to the tab. I don't think we have the knowledge to provide any sort of, knowledgeable recommendation about MCAS and Park and Common Core, and I don't think it's really under our purview, but Janet, you want to add?
Yeah, I think it's not unusual for us with petitions, just not, with the ANS petition, I don't think we took a position, and that was something that was clearly within our purview, and we were knowledgeable about it, but we opted not to. It sort of gets into the issue of, okay, has council vetted it, and, is it appropriate and all that, and I honestly, the detailed statement following up and addressing mostly issues that the school committee had raised in their statement didn't really alter my opinion. It was very, very detailed, and I thought this is really outside of our realm of authority. And even as an individual citizen, I really haven't been following it up. I have well enough to even weigh in on it as an individual, so that'll be interesting at town meeting. So.
Yeah, I sort of agree with that. I think as a board, it doesn't make sense for us to take a position. As an individual, I have my own ideas, but I don't think that as a body, it is appropriate for us to take a look at this. I think this is really the purview of the school committee and how they really want to do this sort of thing, and so I would be happy to let them handle it.
Any other opinions? Okay. So Steve, if we're taking no position, are we still just deferring it, or are we voting to take no position?
Well, I would think that the board could, at town meeting, basically make the statement that the Board of Selectmen has no position on the article.
Right. I just don't know if we need to vote to do that, or if I can just
I
say
think
that.
probably would be a good idea to vote it.
To vote it. Okay. Mike, did you want to say anything?
If I could, just briefly.
Sure. Can you just turn on the mic? Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Michael Coppolino, 14 Isaac Davis Way, excuse me.
And school committee member.
All right, and school committee member. I'm actually going to wear both hats in the sense that I haven't had this specific a discussion with the school committee, so it's not their stance. But the letter dated November 2nd to the Board of Selectmen from the folks that are the proponents of the warrant. There are a couple of things here that I just want to clarify, even if you choose not to take a position. So it just so happens that I personally was on the frameworks committee that reviewed and revised the existing mass frameworks on the mathematics side. So I have the document here. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of detail, but I'm going to read one paragraph if I could, just because there's lots of comments in the letter that was sent you that honestly are incorrect. The crux of it sounds like it wasn't vetted adequately, that there was no public process. Okay, so
Can I just ask you a quick question about the terminology here?
Absolutely.
Is the frameworks the Common Core? Is that the same thing?
Effectively, yes. So the state has frameworks that are not, they're not verbatim the same in every single state. Okay, so the overarching standards are the frameworks that Massachusetts has adopted with a give or take of 15%. So we've tweaked them and made some adjustments to them. So prior to 2011, there were the Massachusetts only frameworks. Then this committee that I'm referring to, that had about 54 people on it, including elementary, secondary, post-secondary professors, teachers and staff from throughout the state, as well as corporate people from EMC, Federal Reserve, Tufts University. So there was widespread review and comment that was made. In addition to this board, or this working group that met for about 2.5 years, there were at least 5 public workshops. I know this for a fact because I actually sponsored or monitored one in Waltham. So I know part of this letter says, gee, there wasn't adequate public vetting, if you will. And that simply was not the case. So just one quick paragraph in terms of trying to make the distinction, which the school committee attempted to do in the letter, distinguishing between PARC, which is an assessment tool, and the framework/Common Core standards, okay? So this is from Massachusetts Curriculum Framework for Mathematics, March 2011. And this is sort of what we use. I happen to be a teacher also. So this is sort of what we use as our guide. So in their design and content refined through successive drafts and numerous rounds of feedback, the standards in this document represent a synthesis of the best elements of standards-related work to date, and an important advance over that previous work. A few more sentences. As specified, the standards are, 1, research and evidence-based. Secondly, aligned with college and work expectations. 3, they're rigorous and internationally benchmarked. A particular standard was included in the document only when the best available evidence indicated that its mastery was essential for college and career readiness in a 21st century globally competitive society. Standards are intended to be a living work. As new and better evidence emerges, the standards will be revised accordingly. So I just wanted to set the record straight, so to speak. It sounded like that the Common Core was designed in a back room, maybe with the people who wrote up Park, and that wasn't the case. They're two separate things. Park didn't even come into play till about 2-3 years ago, and they've been testing it recently. So they're not one and the same, as is sort of alluded here. Essentially, what we did is we cleared up and cleaned up any ambiguities, moved some standards to lower grades, upper grades. Mathematics is largely the way you and I learned it a whole bunch of years ago, and it has been for the last couple thousand years, to be very frank. I mean, some of the methodologies used in pedagogy has changed, but what we know as mathematics still prevails. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mike, and I think, again, this underscores a bit concerns in general with citizens petitions a lot of times, that they really aren't, vetted, and that there are often misunderstandings or things that are not correct or things that can be argued either way. And so, again, I think it underlines the fact that I don't think that any of us here are prepared to take a position on this article. So could I have no, Judith?
I'll move to take no position. And I will defer to the school committee, because, and people who know a lot more about these things than I do.
And I'll be clear, I meant to include, I apologize for this, that Christina, the chair of the school committee, contacted me earlier, and she will be speaking to the moderator, and hopefully the moderator will allow the school committee to read their statement on the floor of town meeting. So I think that's how we'll potentially handle that discussion. So to be finalized at pre-town meeting, but
Second.
pass that along. Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments about taking no position? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Okay,
Easiest thing for me to do.
the next article the board had deferred a position on was Article 5, which is the collective bargaining agreement for AFSCME that represents highway, municipal properties, and cemetery. And if the board may recall at the last meeting, I had announced that even though we'd had a negotiated settlement, the union had not ratified that agreement. They did ratify last Wednesday night, I believe. We have not signed a memorandum of agreement yet, but they have ratified. We'll probably sign it tomorrow, I'm guessing. So basically, in a nutshell, it would be a 2% increase for FY16, which is what this article would seek the appropriation for under state law. Then it'd be 2.5% in 17, 2.5% in 18. But under the statute, we have to get the first year's agreement appropriated, and the game plan would be to fund this article through the existing FY16 budget and not free cash.
Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, do I have a motion to recommend?
Since I'm going to be presenting this article, I'll move that we recommend adoption of the funding the new collective bargaining agreement for AFSCME.
Second?
Okay. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Yes, you missed a meeting where we assigned you all the articles, so don't miss meetings. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Next up.
So Article 7, the board had taken a position to approve the article or to recommend the article, but I know Peter wanted to talk about this based on the recommendation of the Kelly's Corner Committee of last Wednesday as well, I believe. So, Peter.
Yeah, I think planning, and I was in favor of putting this request to fund the design of the new Kelly's Corner infrastructure only, which is separate from the zoning bylaw changes. It would make Kelly's Corner a much more pedestrian-friendly destination, would hopefully turn it much more into a town center type of environment, new sidewalks, traffic calming measures such as islands, acquisition of the cut through there. It's called Community Way from Main Street to Mass Ave. You know, Roland's been talking to the state funding agencies and the federal funding agencies, and there's apparently a round that starts in December, so we thought if we could get the money appropriated at town meeting, Roland would have that to go to those funding agencies to show the town's commitment to leverage like $9 to $12 million in state and federal money to construct these improvements. After the board voted to put this on the warrant, there was a lot of concern from the Kelly's Corner Steering Committee that they had not formally taken a vote to put this on the warrant. We had a meeting last week, and Roland made his pitch and why it would be helpful to have the money in hand to go to the funders. I took the position that I think it should be split out from the zoning and we should move forward with the infrastructure. Whether or not the zoning passes, we still need to improve Kelly's Corner infrastructure. If we can get $9 to $12 million for spending a total of $750,000 to do the design, that's what government should be doing as far as I'm concerned. For a lot of reasons, the committee voted not to support this warrant article. They feel that they should present the two things together, the zoning bylaw changes that would, you know, obviously help shape the private development that would be going on in the future at Kelly's Corner, as well as the infrastructure improvements. So their plan is to put the both of them forward at town meeting in the spring. One would be the request for the full $750,000 to get to 100% design. One thing they felt was they had asked town meeting in 2013 to appropriate money to get to 25%. The scope has expanded since then, so that money has all been spent both for their consultants to put together the zoning stuff and the infrastructure design, and to do like 10% of the drawings, the design work. And so they felt it was inappropriate to go back to town meeting now and say, well, we need another $315,000 to get to the 25% design that we asked you to fund in 2013, but we couldn't get to because we spent the money on things that we hadn't anticipated. So that was a complication. And the long and the short of it is, at this point, without their support, I'm going to recommend that we now rescind this committee's, I wasn't here for the meeting, but the Selectmen's vote to recommend this article and change it to asking town meeting to pass over this article so it can come up in the spring.
Janet?
Well, I have to say, I had written to, when we found out that the Kelly's Corner Committee hadn't voted, I found out from various people, and I wrote to Katie, the town manager. I said I felt as if, you know, I'd had the wool pulled over my eyes anyhow. And then I know that FinCom was not happy about having a big, even though the appropriation was cut in half by this board at the last meeting, they were not happy about having, you sort of proposed spending, because they've been hearing that was going to be non-spending articles at this special town meeting. So I think that having something of that dimension wait until our annual town meeting, when presumably there will be a much bigger, robust audience attending, will be better all around. So anyhow, but I appreciate your effort in any event. And we did miss you at the last meeting for that reason, precisely, so.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, I mean, I happen to, I understand the Kelly's Corner Steering Committee's reasoning. I think there's a lot of me that still says I think it would have been worth it to go for it at this town meeting, but I'm not comfortable doing it without their recommendation as well. So, it's a bit unfortunate how this played out, but it is what it is. So, would you like to make a motion to, to rescind our recommendation and to recommend that is it take no action, Steve?
Move to take no action.
Take no action,
correct.
yeah. I know the moderator always gets touchy about exactly what it is, so. Would you like to make that motion, sir?
Sure, I'll move that the selectmen rescind their prior recommendation to support this article at town meeting and change it to requesting that the voters take no action.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you, Peter.
And I would suggest that, I guess, Peter, you'll be making the motion at town meeting that probably should explain it, because everybody is going to see a printed warrant that said the Board of Selectmen recommend.
Any other ones that we needed?
Oh, the only other ones we have not taken a position on are 11 and 12, and I would recommend that we keep those deferred up till our pre-meeting at town meeting.
We also haven't taken a position on 10, which is Minuteman. And
Oh, right.
Which is what?
Minuteman. The
So do
proposal
you-
to amend to
Yeah.
provide for the withdrawal Wayland. I mean, my tendency would be to recommend that we defer, only because there's some information, we'll have more information after tonight. Lexington is having a special town meeting. Their Board of Selectmen voted not to recommend their article, the same article. And Lexington is one of the towns that wants to stay in the district and wants the building project to move forward. Anyhow, so I don't know what's happening with the vote at special town meeting. If special town meeting in Lexington opted not to recommend, rejected the article, then that would kill the unanimity that they require anyway under the regional agreement for a town to withdraw. Our options at that point would be, we could just pass over it, although if we have, there's an argument to be for saying we don't recommend because we want to have more leverage with regard to some of the communities that want to get out and are creating difficulties for those of us, the majority, who want to stay in and want the building project to go forward. So, at this point, chances are by the time next spring comes, when this is going to be the first time that some member communities are going to be voting on Wayland's request, it's possible that things will have changed. The discussions among the selectmen from the different towns are going to continue. I had a meeting with Carmen Reese today of the Concord Board of Selectmen, because she's been following this issue basically most of the time that she's been on the board, and she just expressed exasperation at what she heard at last Wednesday's meeting, because it's just you're trying and yet just the little picking at nits continues. So I would recommend that we just defer. And in the meantime, I am talking with Pam Norris tomorrow. She's got to talk to FinCom about the articles, and she doesn't really know she's not sure what she's going to say, because it could go in any number of ways. But I assume that probably in fairness, and maybe the town manager has an opinion, that we shouldn't just pass over. I think that under the regional agreement, you are supposed to, as a member, when a member requests to withdraw and they provide a draft article, you're supposed to, and you get it as a member town from the Minuteman School Committee, you're supposed to put the article on the next special town meeting or town meeting, and so that's what we've done, and I assume that you'd kind of hollow out that obligation if you then proceeded to recommend that town meeting not, or pass over it. So, which means that there's going to be some sort of presentation, which I will be working with Pam on, but Pam will be presenting, so.
Okay, so let's
Okay.
just, it sounds like we'll keep it deferred, and after
Just keep it.
tomorrow night, you can let us
You
know if
know,
we get more
yeah,
info, and we can discuss it out.
Well, the interesting thing is, Lexington actually has two special town meetings posted. One has 4 articles, one has 10 articles that they're taking up tonight. So I don't quite understand why that is.
They're both
but-
posted for tonight.
But the second town meeting, with the 10 articles, has the Minuteman.
So it's going to be later.
So, yeah,
They
I
have
mean,
a
there's nothing-
representative
there's
town
nothing
meeting,
wrong-
yeah. This is so much for representative town meeting, right? Just 2 special town meetings at one time.
I assume we'll have a pre-town meeting, selectmen's meeting, so we can
Yes.
look at this
Right,
thing.
sorry, no, well, pre-town meeting is Thursday, but we'll have a meeting on the 10th at what, 6?
We haven't posted it yet. I think 6 we probably should, just, yeah.
Whatever, they'll send out a. That's fine, you're not presenting, so it's okay, for pre-town meeting. Okay, and that is, I believe, it, unless anybody
And
has.
then the land articles, once again, I think we should hold those off until Tuesday night.
Okay. Anybody have questions about their reports? I.e., Peter, do your report. You can send it in for next time, but this is me bugging you to do it.
I don't know if you want to get, I just had an update.
Sure.
This is, well, first of all, on Minuteman, this Boxbow proposal still needs to be analyzed, this whole, which it's supposed to be, it's presented as a solution to the problem. I don't think it is, based on the discussion at last Wednesday's meeting. And I've got a question in, to, among others, to the assistant superintendent who Mr. Town Manager and also Carmen Reese said is astute about bonding and financial issues. I haven't heard from him, but if we're going to have any discussion about it, I think at some point this group, including Vince Amoroso, who proposed it, might want to hear what our board thinks about it, but maybe before we weigh in on it, maybe some people who actually know something about what he's proposing will have weighed in, and that will take care of it. And the other update I had, it's the Acton Water District. There's no news about Concord's request to connect to the water district at Knox Trail. I will have to talk with the town manager about something that Carmen and I discussed. But Chris Allen, the district director for the water district, provided an update about the nuclear metals site cleanup. He said the contractor is installing monitoring wells at 16 Knox Trail, which is the former Assabet Sand and Gravel. Originally, the proposal was to have the monitoring wells located in the Knox Trail right away, but that would have put the monitoring area near the water district's 8-inch water main, so they moved it farther away. The contractor is also likely to pursue installation of pump and treatment system at 16 Knox Trail. And Chris said that the contractor has been responsive to most of the water district's concerns. There is a discrepancy among mass and federal standards with regard to 1,4-dioxane, the concentrations that are allowable. The mass drinking standard is one thing, the mass waste site cleanup is another thing, the federal Superfund standard is something else, and then the record of decision that was issued with regard to that site has a standard that's yet something else, but was representing the highest concentration that has been detected at one of the Assabet wellheads. There's some concern about the discrepancy also with regard to the W.R. Grace site, the concentration that was allowed, which was the federal standard. And because the two sites between them have an impact on all of the South Acton wells. So Water District is working with Special Environmental Counsel, and they have an environmental contractor. And they're apparently meeting and will continue to meet with the DEP, so.
Excellent. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn? No, Franny? Oh.
I just wanted to remind people that the fixed route bus started today.
That's right.
And a few of us took it in the morning, and there are a lot of kinks to work out, and there's a lot of changes that will happen over the next many weeks, especially with the new train schedule and trying to decide where it should stop and where it shouldn't. But people should take it, and they should be patient, and they should also put in comments to Doug Halley as to what works and what doesn't and what stops they think should be made, in what order, whatever. Whatever comments people have is really important.
Great.
And I was just looking.
Did I also see it's free until
It's
July,
free,
January 1st?
it's free this month. Well,
Oh, okay.
I don't know about till January 1st. I
Okay.
know at least the month of November.
Okay.
It's going to be $1 after that.
All right, free rides, everybody. It's just taken everywhere. Well, I take the rail shuttle. It's a nice shuttle, Janet. Yeah. Yeah. Just ride around on it all day, you know?
I'm sort of
relaxing.
sorry that at first we're not helping the commuters get from that north and
Well, I think we do.
Acton to
yeah.
the train station, but that was due to staffing the new bus. But
And we do have the option to take the rail, I mean, that is already an option if you go to Prospect Street and.
yes, but for people who don't drive, it was a new option, which I hope will come back. I also wanted to remember, I didn't see it in my notes, but the holiday fair for the Council on Aging is November 14th.
Excellent. Is Santa usually there, or Santa? I believe he is.
Yes.
So, real life Santa. Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. So we will see you all there on Thursday or November 10th.
So our meeting before this meeting on the 10th was